I studied crime movies and posed as a mob boss. And some dumb rich kid actually bought it. He wired me 10 million in protection money. He even sent me a divorced female manager. All because I stumbled onto a top-secret file. It said the company would collapse in 5 days. If I sold the intel to the boss first, she could find the mole and save the day. But the more I read, the more stunned I got. Chloe Whitmore, eldest granddaughter of the capital city Whitmores. 18 guards around her, all elite ex-special forces. And a loaded pistol hidden in her desk. I closed my eyes and pictured the office tower. I walked past guards and stood before Chloe. Then she raised a gun at me. Just imagining it made me sweat and go weak. But this was my one shot to change my life. I clenched my fists and came up with a plan. I'd sell the intel to Chloe as an information broker. The key was staying mysterious. So I played the Godfather on my laptop. I studied the Don's face, posture, and vibe. Then I bought a few replica guns online. A mystery broker should have a darker group behind him. So I built myself as a man who'd faced death. A cold killer with blood on his hands. And the key was the eyes. So I pointed the gun at myself in the mirror. My face went still. My eyes went cold. As the muzzle moved toward my forehead, the calm and immersion kept building. Felt like a real gun was on my head. Fear of death made my body shake. For days I watched brutal horror movies. As the gruesome scenes flashed by, my eyes slowly grew colder. Today was the last day. After sending my coworkers away, I dialed the number. On the 58th floor of the same tower, Chloe took a silver gray burner from her drawer. She frowned at the unknown number. Who is this? Hello, Ms. Whitmore. Who are you? Ms. Whitmore, I almost pity you. To us, you're a beautiful canary, trapped in a gilded cage, fighting a story with a fixed ending. In her office, Chloe's face turned colder. Who the hell are you? I calmly read the lines I'd prepared. A dangerous aura rolled off Chloe. After a long pause, she asked coldly, what do you want? I'm here to help. Send someone in 50 minutes. With your skills, finding me won't be hard. Then I hung up first. I brushed off my clothes and went back to my desk. Then I waited for her people to show. 10 minutes later, Chloe had my file. Ethan Hayes, 26, office employee. It was as ordinary as a file could get. But Chloe looked deadly serious. I'd worked in this building for 2 years. She had moved in 2 years ago. She didn't believe it was a coincidence. At 6, an elegant secretary appeared outside. Our eyes met. I gave a faint smile. I called her out at once. Ms. Palmer, let's go. Ms. Palmer didn't react. She gestured politely. Then we took the elevator to the 58th floor. Only people summoned by Chloe could enter. A line of black uniformed guards stood in the hall. One stood every 5 feet or so. I'd rehearsed this scene before, but facing them, my legs still went weak. I could only keep my dead-eyed look. I forced myself to her office door. A square-faced, middle-aged man stepped forward. Excuse me. I smiled calmly and handed my briefcase to Ms. Palmer. Then I said the line I'd written. Rules matter. I always respect rules. Thank you, Captain Warren. Victor Warren gave me a deep look. At work, he used the alias Mark Dawson. Only Chloe and a few Whitmores knew his real name. I turned once and pushed up my glasses. Ms. Palmer gestured again. Chloe heard the door, finished the last page, then looked up. When I learned the target was just a clerk in my building, I thought someone had stolen your identity. So what do you people want? I calmly pulled out a chair and sat down. Meeting her eyes, I smiled and replied, I told you, I'm here to help. Humph, and how can you help me? Kill Adrian Blackwood for me? I could if you agreed to be my woman. At that, Chloe's face went icy. She opened a drawer and pulled out a silver pistol. The dark muzzle pressed against my forehead. Who sent you? One light pull of her finger, and my head would burst like a melon. But I didn't even blink. I glanced over her graceful figure and said calmly, Colt M2000. Your grandfather gave it to you as a childhood birthday gift. William Whitmore held you and proudly said, who says girls are less than boys? From now on, my Chloe is the Whitmore Tigress. Chloe's face filled with shock and doubt. Only she and her grandfather had been there. Even he might have forgotten it by now. Chloe sat back down and said coldly, get to the point. Let me reintroduce myself. I'm an intel broker. I sell facts to those who need them most. The name is Hayes. You may call me Mr. Hayes. Over the past 2 years, Adrian Blackwood has planted mole after mole around you. You each chose different fields for your wager, but your Rivergate is now taking off. Adrian has been getting restless. After I laid it all out, Chloe said 2 words, ice cold. Your price? A discount, 10 million. Chloe accepted without even thinking. I wrote down name after name, with each related incident. Then I left my bank account. Grace, come to my office. Within a minute or two, Grace Palmer entered respectfully. Chloe's voice was cold to the bone. Adrian paid you 5 million over 2 years. Grace had nerves of steel or Adrian wouldn't have picked her. Where did you hear that, Ms. Whitmore? I'll open all my bank accounts and records. Have your people check them. You, Felix Grant, Mason Reed, and Claire Ford have guts. You dared play me for a fool. As each name came out, Grace tried to hide it. Her pupils tightened. Panic flashed for a split second. Chloe caught it. Then a gunshot cracked. I wiped my eye and saw blood on my finger. Grace's lips trembled as she tried to explain. Then she fell backward at my feet. It was my first time seeing a shooting up close. Every hair on my body stood up. I was terrified, but I couldn't show it. My practiced smile stayed on. Chloe looked utterly cold. She put the gun back with ease and said, "Sorry you had to see that, Mr. Hayes. You are the Whitmore Tigress. That decisiveness alone is something few can match." Chloe smiled at that. Then she took another phone and tapped the screen. "Mr. Hayes, your payment has been sent. Pleasure doing business. I won't take more of your time. I'll see you out." As I stood to leave, I saw Grace. The bullet lodged in her forehead, her pale face and wide eyes staring at me. That one look made my heart race. But I caught Chloe watching me, so I forced myself to stay calm again. I nudged Grace's head aside with my shoe. At the office door, Chloe stopped. She said a car was ready to take me home. My smile froze for a second. Honestly, I'd rather take the subway. But now wasn't the time to refuse. Victor Warren led me to the underground garage. Then he brought me to an all-black Maybach. As I was about to get in, a beautiful woman in office wear sat in the back. A black cloth covered her eyes. Even so, I recognized her. It was Evelyn Foster, the manager I'd fantasized about. Once seated, I let out a shaky breath. This deal showed me a hidden talent. The more tense and dangerous it got, the better I could look calm and rational. But just as I kept thinking, a foot in burgundy heels slowly brushed its toe along my calf. Its owner seemed nervous. Her toe kept trembling against me. Because Evelyn was blindfolded, she didn't know I was her subordinate. Ms. Whitmore said, "If you like me, I'm your gift." She also said, "You can enjoy me anywhere." Is this your choice? My name is Evelyn Foster. I'm an admin manager. I'm 33, 5'8", about 138 pounds. I got married 3 years ago. My husband died in a car crash 2 years ago. That's enough. Half an hour later, the car stopped outside an old apartment complex. I carried my briefcase and kept my steps steady. But my heavy breathing slipped out. In the dark stairwell, I rushed up to the second floor. I pulled out my muted phone. A text alert appeared. National Bank account ending in 1247. Received a transfer on December 16th at 6:45:61 p.m. Amount credited, 10 million. I counted the digits with my finger. Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. 10 million. My face flushed. I swallowed hard. It would take me 70 years to earn this. I opened my mouth, ready to scream. Then footsteps came from downstairs. I took a breath and walked up to the third floor. I opened the shared apartment door. My roommate, Dana Brooks, stepped out through steam in a silk slip. Dana suddenly stopped drying her hair. She teased me like this all the time. Usually I'd blush and look away. Then I'd mumble her name and rush to my room. But today I didn't move. So she looked toward the doorway. My burning eyes were fixed on her. She didn't feel offended. Instead, her red lips curved playfully. "Kiddo, am I pretty?" "Dana, you once said you wanted to be a tycoon's mistress. So how much would make you mine? For other men, at least $1 billion. But for you, kiddo, I think 100 million is enough. Work hard, kiddo." How did I say that? Was that really me? I've been a proper, honest guy since childhood. But after that 10 million hit, ambition and desire broke through reason. Looking at myself in the mirror, fear flooded my mind. I looked down and saw Grace's twisted face by my feet. I ripped off my dress shoe and flung it away. But when I looked again, I seemed to see a bloody face begging for help. I kept swallowing. After who knows how long, I stood barefoot, shaking. Then I found a black plastic bag. With 2 fingers, I grabbed the shoe heel. I buried it in kitchen waste and threw it out. Then I took a hot shower right away. Only then did the fear slowly fade. Meanwhile, in Chloe's office, Victor Warren brought back items from Grace's apartment. Chloe opened the evidence bag. She glanced at it, then pinned it under her palm. Find a shadow to replace Grace Palmer. I'll give her a reasonable excuse. For a business trip during the year-end sale. Also form a team to assist the shadow. Handle all of Grace's social contacts for the next month. After learning every mole around her, Chloe made a wildly bold decision. She would play along with Adrian's plan. Let him heat up public opinion. Then use that heat for a classic comeback. That was Chloe Whitmore's courage. Victor straightened and nodded solemnly. Chloe tapped her fingers on the desk. What do you think of Mr. Hayes? Before Mr. Hayes entered your office, I performed a routine check. I sensed a bit of tension in him. Chloe immediately reviewed the footage frame by frame. After 2.5 minutes, she made a bold call. She believed my occasional tension was likely left for the cameras on purpose. Interesting. Very interesting. I had just showered and returned to my room. Another confidential file had appeared by the bookcase. One glance nearly made me pee myself, so I immediately played Infernal Affairs. I copied how the boss ate his boxed meal in the park. Then I went to the library for actor training books, including major works on performance craft. I took notes while picturing The Godfather. After a full night of prep, I went to work as usual the next day. But just as I reached the office tower, I saw Evelyn Foster, who had served me in the car last night. Co-workers were crowding around to congratulate her. She'd been promoted from admin manager to director. One look was enough. This was Chloe's reward for serving me. Evelyn walked into the lobby, pretending to stay calm, but last night's scene kept echoing in her mind. Though blindfolded, she hadn't seen his face, but she was sure he was young. And just as I reached my desk and sat down, my manager suddenly appeared outside the office. My eyes tightened. My eyelids started twitching. As I wondered how to handle it, my buddy Brock patted my shoulder. "Come on. Why are you frozen?" Soon, we took the elevator to the 48th floor. I nodded and followed Brock, trying to dodge the cameras. But the camera above us suddenly turned. My blood ran hot in an instant. Grace's death flashed before my eyes again. I wanted to avoid it, but my legs froze. By then, the camera had turned right at me. I forced myself to stay steady. I raised my chin, smiled, and looked into the lens. With a faint smile, I said, "We meet again." Chloe watched the feed, tapping the desk. A trace of doubt crossed her cool eyes. She saw too many contradictions in me. A killer and a lamb shouldn't exist in one man. By then, I was outside Evelyn Foster's office. Evelyn was sketching the big shot from last night. Brock teased, "Your goddess is a director now." My mouth curved almost imperceptibly. Chloe only brought tension and pressure. But with Evelyn, I felt a strange freedom and thrill. After the secretary announced us, I walked in slowly. Evelyn quickly put the sketchbook back in her drawer. Then she picked up another file. She planned to finish it before dealing with us. But before finishing the first page, she frowned. Then she looked up at me. Goosebumps rose across her pale back. For a moment, she felt the man in her sketch, that faceless mystery man, was this plain office worker before her. But she dismissed the thought at once. How could Chloe's VIP be some loser making 30 grand a month? She gathered herself and met my gaze. For Rivergate's year-end sale campaign, Dreamstart Creative has a key role to play. Just as the three of us got into the work discussion, the secretary suddenly knocked and came in. She said the designers had a meeting and called Brock out. Only Evelyn and I were left in the office. Evelyn unconsciously raised her hand before her face. She looked at me through the gaps in her fingers. My figure matched the man behind the blindfold perfectly. Her eyes lit up. Her fingers rubbed together. She vaguely remembered a bump behind his earlobe. Maybe a mole. Maybe a hair follicle. To test her guess, she suddenly changed the subject. "Mr. Hayes, there's a file on that bookcase I can't quite reach. Could you get it for me?" I met Evelyn's eyes and nodded. She walked beside me and pointed to a file on the top shelf. Then she stared at my right ear. But the door knocked again. She ignored it and kept looking up. But I had already taken the folder and turned back. Then the secretary opened the door again. "Director Foster, Director Hale needs you in a meeting now." Evelyn nodded and had to leave. Now the large office held only me. Brock and Evelyn being called away was no coincidence. The intel said Chloe had a serious need for control, so she had to be watching me from her office. And the most obvious spot was straight ahead. So I looked forward and smiled faintly. Chloe watched me on the screen. Then she zoomed in at once. Even the words in my notes were clear. They were design requirements and professional sketches. On her stunning, commanding face, doubt and wariness appeared for the first time. If a huge force truly stood behind the man on screen, then making an operative this detailed and real, showed its power and ambition. She closed the screen at once. 2.5 minutes later, she opened Evelyn's office door. I chose my words, my tone perfectly calm. If Ms. Whitmore wants to see me, she can anytime. Talking to someone this sharp is no fun. Then I'll be direct. "Mr. Hayes, you helped me greatly. Would you join me for dinner?" Feeling her gaze, I wanted to refuse. Meals reveal too many private details. And if Chloe chose Western fine dining, or something I'd never even seen, I'd be exposed in no time. But I chuckled and lightly took Chloe's right hand. "Then I'll look forward to it." Only after Chloe left did I let out a long breath. Then I ran to a bathroom stall and searched Western dining etiquette. But the first result stunned me. There were French, Italian, British main course types, plus soups, appetizers, and entrees. So I quit the page and locked my phone. Instead of awkwardly faking etiquette, I'd calmly say sorry. Never had it. I arrived at the underground garage as promised. An ordinary Mercedes stopped in front of me. Chloe set down her file and looked at me. "Mr. Hayes, we meet again." Same words, different tone and expression. Now she had the allure of a top-tier woman. Chloe was a true shapeshifter. "Being remembered by a woman like you is my honor, Ms. Whitmore." Chloe didn't make much small talk. Soon she focused on her files and contracts again. I looked out the window trying to calm my nerves. Then I noticed Chloe's feet reflected in the glass. One glance and I couldn't look away. How could such perfect proportions exist? "Want to touch?" Her gaze was chilling. That sentence made my back hair stand up. But no matter what, I couldn't show fear. If I may." Chloe smiled, parted her red lips, and extended her right foot. Somehow, I actually reached toward her calf. Her smile stayed, but her eyes grew colder. Her left hand dropped beside the armrest. The intel said another pistol was hidden there. If I truly touched her, she'd shoot me without hesitation. So I pulled back with regret. Another time. About 20 minutes later, the car stopped before a classical building. "Mr. Hayes, after you." The restaurant sign was in French I couldn't read. Damn it, what tone should I use? To say I've never had Western food? Chloe took the champagne and poured me a glass. Then she lifted her own glass. Looking at the beauty before me, I felt nervous and thrilled. Our glasses clinked. Chloe took a sip and said softly, "This Dom Perignon Rose Gold was from the 1996 batch. Only 35 bottles were made. Then drinking it would be wasted on me." Of course, Chloe saw right through it. So she asked, testing me, "So you don't eat Western food often, Mr. Hayes?" "My position doesn't let me visit places like this often." "No wonder you can go this far. No wonder even my deep background check found no flaw at all." For the next few minutes, the mood eased. I thought I could bluff my way through dinner. Then Chloe suddenly asked the killer question. "Mr. Hayes, your circle is so mysterious. Even my grandfather barely speaks of you. Could you share a little?" "Circle? What damn circle?" Facing Chloe's piercing stare, my mind raced through the two files. After a moment, I forced a smile. I bit the bullet. "It's a place sunlight never reaches." Chloe's devouring eyes locked on me. Then she repeated it. "A place sunlight never reaches." Every hair on me stood up. So before the next dessert arrived, I made an excuse and rushed to the restroom. I wiped off my sweat with tissues. Judging by Chloe's reaction, she likely thought I was only a puppet. The real controller behind me had yet to appear. 5 minutes later, I returned to the table calmly. Given the situation, this was the best move. When questioned, never try to explain. After dessert, Chloe dropped me at my complex. I watched the Mercedes leave, then entered the building. "How's the investigation?" Mr. Hayes's records show no issues." But in sophomore year, he became unusually excited for a while. If an organization recruited him, it was likely during that period. Hearing that, Chloe closed her eyes. Every frame of seeing me flashed through her mind. Only after a long while did she make a judgment. As soon as I got back to my rental, I eagerly pulled the two files from behind the bookcase. Chloe's company showed no changes. No one cared Grace was gone. The other moles were still at their posts. Reading the intel, my pupils tightened. This woman actually planned to play along. Let Adrian smear Rivergate first, then flip it when the heat peaked online. Under normal circumstances, Chloe could win. But sadly, she was doomed to fail. Because one page clearly stated that once Adrian used his family power to cut off Chloe's booked overseas freight and logistics, the chain reaction of breached orders and damaged goods would destroy Rivergate for good. After sorting my thoughts, I opened the second file. Silas Mercer, founder of Harborview Shipping and third branch boss of Canal Gate, launched a survival pit plan at age 54. 200 orphans. Food for only 10 each day. To survive, the children began killing each other. One child who survived was Derek Shaw. Silas adopted him and made him his sharpest blade. For decades, Derek bled and fought for him. But Derek never dreamed that the foster father he trusted most was the mastermind behind his wife and child's murder. At that point, I suddenly grew excited. If I gave this intel to Derek, he could remove Silas, become the group's new boss, and help Chloe solve her logistics crisis. It would also erase her doubts and investigations into me. The next night, I went to Derek Shaw's bar. "Sir, how can I help you?" "I'd like to see Mr. Shaw." Soon, the man returned and led me to a private room. I took a breath. Before I could even scan the room, a tall figure appeared before me. Then a large hand grabbed my head and smashed it through the glass in the door. Fresh blood instantly ran from the back of my head. After a dizzy spell, I saw the middle-aged man before me. He was like an enraged beast. Pain and fear surged through me. but the feeling vanished quickly, because I had pushed things here on purpose. I looked at Derek and smiled with pity. Derek Shaw, do you know the Truman Show? Derek's face didn't change, though rage burned inside him. He wanted to grab my head and smash it again. But he let go. What are you trying to say? Do you know what you'll pay for this? Before he finished, Derek's men tensed with rage. They were about to move, but Derek raised a hand. I pushed through the crowd and sat on the sofa. After drinking a glass of champagne, I said coldly, I suggest everyone here put away their phones. Do as he says. Soon, everyone in the room handed over their phones. But I still wasn't satisfied. I looked at another middle-aged man. This time, Derek's face darkened. That man was his most trusted friend. They had taken blades and risked their lives for each other. The man called, Derek. Then he pulled out his phone and slapped it on the table. Derek walked over and sat beside me. If you don't explain, you don't leave this room tonight. I'll tell you a story. It has two sides. Side 1. Winter of 1996. A 14-year-old orphan was about to die. I stretched my words, giving them a storyteller's rhythm. Most people in the room listened in confusion. Only Derek's eyelid twitched, and that other man grew thoughtful. That year, the welfare homes that gave winter supplies cut the rations for orphans. No one knew who started it. To live, they had to fight like hounds over scraps. Orphans across Harbor City were forced into packs. That 14-year-old orphan took his only food and secretly gave it to a weak friend who had been robbed. Then he went into the city alone to steal food from other groups. But one boy couldn't beat a crowd. He failed. Just as the light before his eyes was fading, a tall figure appeared before him. I stopped there. Seeing Derek stay unchanged, I began the second side. He was 54 in the winter of 1996. In Harbor City, he proposed the survival pit plan. So the welfare homes in his city began cutting orphan supplies that winter. Those poor kids had to steal from other orphans to live. At the same time, the man planted scouts to watch which children performed best in the plunder. The moment I finished, calm Derek snapped his head up. His eyes widened, bloodshot veins spreading. But I kept a faint smile. Derek suddenly reined in his rage. That frozen winter of childhood was his nightmare. Even now, he still dreamed of it. He dreamed of Duck starving to death. He dreamed of Tank being beaten to death protecting their food. Mr. Mercer was the man he respected most, the man who saved him. He was the light in Derek's darkest hour. Derek lowered his head again and ate fruit in big bites. Then I spoke again. Let me tell another story. Again, two sides. Side 1. The 14-year-old orphan grew up. His status and prestige rose higher and higher. But at 30, he was ambushed. As he lay in an alley waiting to die, a graceful girl in a white dress appeared at the alley mouth. After that, they married and had a child. It sounded like a good ending, but there was side 2. That man used the survival pit plan to recruit talent. He successfully became the branch boss. He grew wary of Derek at 30, so 5 years later, Derek's wife and child mysteriously died at an enemy's hands. The last 2 lines exploded through the room. Derek's eyes flashed with pain, madness, and distortion. Is that true? Mr. Mercer was the man he saw as a father. He had never doubted him for even a second. He'd taken too many knives and bullets for the old man. He had never wanted that seat. I didn't answer. I swirled my glass and leaned back. Then I winced openly. Mr. Shaw, you hit hard. By then, I was fully in character. I had become the mystery intel broker. Seeing that, Derek lowered his voice. Let me make it up to you, sir. He grabbed the champagne bottle and smashed it into his own forehead. I watched, blank-faced, and said 2 words. Not enough. Derek said nothing. He just faced me in silence. He clenched his fists. His knees bent, but he couldn't kneel. Derek had crawled out of the hound pit on pride and backbone. He had never even knelt to Mr. Mercer, the foster father he revered. Maybe that was one reason Mr. Mercer feared him. But moments later, Derek dropped hard to his knees before me. Head bowed. Body trembling, he said, Please tell me, sir. Derek Shaw, Harborview Shipping's number 2. Looking at the middle-aged man kneeling before me, a strange, beautiful feeling spread through me. I toyed with my glass and murmured, If you want proof, why not ask your dear brother? Derek snapped his head up, disbelief all over his face. Then he looked at his sworn brother, Leon Vance. Leon's lips shook. Derek, I didn't. He and Derek had come up as orphans together. For decades, each trusted the other with his back. I looked at Leon and narrowed my eyes. Do you remember what you told Mr. Mercer the day before Mrs. Lane and her daughter died? Leon's lips trembled, as if he remembered something. It was me. It really was me. I killed my best brother's wife and daughter. One look at his reaction, and Derek understood everything. He grabbed the broken bottleneck and pinned Leon to the corner. Leon met Derek's eyes. He didn't fight or explain. Tears kept sliding down his face. In that moment, Leon wanted to die by Derek's hand. Only that might ease the guilt in his heart. My fingertip kept tapping the wineglass. Watching two bosses face off, I was screaming inside with excitement. I was just an ordinary little clerk. Yet I had pushed Derek Shaw of Harborview Shipping and Leon Vance into a life-or-death clash. My lips curved. Live or die. Before I finished, Derek drove the bottle shard straight at Leon's neck. Leon still didn't dodge. His lips moved. He mouthed, "I'm sorry," then closed his eyes to die. Just as I marveled that two files had shown me two killings, the sharp glass moved away from Leon's throat. It left only a shallow cut across his Adam's apple. Derek stared at Leon with blood-red eyes. "You and I are brothers no more. I owe you. I'll pay it back. What do you want?" I smiled faintly at the others in the room. "With your skills, you know what to do. Your branch's new boss election happens the day before Chloe's sale. I'll give you time. I'll wait for your call until midnight." With that, I picked up my briefcase, patted his shoulder and said, "No need to see me out." Then, under the hungry stares lining the hall, I forced down my nerves and walked out of the bar. Then I immediately hailed a cab. The driver saw my head covered in blood. He asked nothing and sped straight to the hospital. Just then, several cars followed us. In a luxury hotel suite, Chloe stood by the window. Into the phone, she said coldly he went to see Derek Shaw. After she hung up, several photos appeared before her. My bloody head, as I walked out of No Vice Bar. Meanwhile, in the quiet bar room, Derek leaned back on the sofa and gave a self-mocking laugh. "Chloe Whitmore? What do they want? Harborview Shipping? Or?" At that thought, Derek's face twisted. "If you show no mercy, don't blame me for showing none. Ivy, Jenny, I'll avenge you." I had just reached the hospital when Derek called. At 3 in the morning, I got back to my rental. I checked that the hair I'd left in the door crack was still there. Only then did I relax and enter my room. The first thing I did was open the bookcase. Sure enough, a third intel file had appeared. It detailed another boss's life down to every detail. Silas and Derek were terrifying, but their killings still drew blood. This one didn't need to. After piecing it together, I concluded. Chloe would face 3 major shocks during the year-end sale: shipping, logistics, media channels, and traffic resources. If Silas's side represented shipping, then this file represented the media channel. Early the next morning, I went to the Porsche Center. When I first got Chloe's 10 million, I didn't dare spend it. I feared she'd see the weakling under the wolf's skin. But after seeing Derek, I no longer cared. A saleswoman sat in the back, explaining the features. She had a delicate face, and her perfume kept drifting over. I pushed up my glasses and placed my palm on her full thigh. Her body stiffened, and her pretty face sank. I blurted out, "I'll take this car. Full payment by card." Her stunned eyes instantly filled with a smile. "Yes, sir. Please wait. I'll handle it now." Moments later, she returned to the back seat and shut the door herself. "Sir, what options would you like?" "No need. I want the best, most expensive top trim." The saleswoman, Mia Bennett, froze in shock. The 2021 Turbo Executive Long Wheelbase 4.0T. Total price, $2,748,385. I took the pen and signed without a pause. Just like that, nearly 3 million was gone. Then I traced a circle near her lips. 30 seconds later, I walked out of the Porsche Center with my briefcase. Thinking back, I frowned and muttered, "Poor performance." At the same time, Derek had already started moving. Early that morning, he drove to Silas Mercer's villa. He looked at the old butler he once respectfully called Mr. Cole. Blood-red anger rose deep in Derek's eyes. But once the car stopped, his face changed instantly. He threw an arm around the old man's shoulder and laughed warmly. "Mr. Cole, how's your health?" "I'm doing great. Young Master Shaw, you haven't come by in a while." "Here I am. I've missed you and Mr. Mercer like crazy." Then he followed Mr. Cole with both hands in his pockets. His eyes still held that careless smile, but deep down he recalled Ethan Hayes' words. Mr. Cole was the person Silas trusted most. He also knew Silas's methods best. They crossed the corridor and courtyard one after the other. Derek glanced over the black-clad guards and said casually, "The old man is still scared of death." As he entered the Chinese garden, before he got close, he heard a string of bell-like laughter. Mr. Mercer lay in a lounge chair. A refined, middle-aged man in gold-rimmed glasses poured tea for him. In a nearby corner, Silas's little grandson played by the flower bed. An elegant woman stood beside him. Her eyes never left her son. Derek watched the warm family scene before him. Seeing Derek's respectful smile, Silas's expression suddenly shifted. He said hoarsely, "Julia, take Zane away first." But Derek suddenly strode into the garden. He spread his arms and lifted little Zane over his head. "You've gotten heavy, little guy. Soon you'll be a big guy. The instant he picked up the child, the old man, usually steady as a mountain, tensed up. The refined, middle-aged man reacted the least. He calmly watched Derek hold his son. Julia was the most nervous, arms already out. Her eyes stayed on the child in Derek's arms. Seeing this, Derek thought, Mr. Mercer, you really have gotten old. But his face showed nothing. He smiled, set the boy down and patted his head. Julia, take little Zane away. Mr. Cole had a servant bring a chair beside Silas. Derek sat down and Silas glanced at him. What happened to your head? Derek touched the gauze on his head, unconcerned. Drank too much yesterday. Took a fall. Silas didn't suspect anything and snapped. Watch your image. You're embarrassing our whole branch, Lord Shaw. Come on. Who even remembers me now? In all of Canal Gate, everyone knows Harborview Shipping's future boss is the elite returnee from overseas, not a gutter thug like me. At that, the age-spotted Silas smiled. His son-in-law, Caleb Voss, was taking over Derek's forces. The transition pleased him. The refined man filled a cup and handed it to Derek. You're too kind, Derek. Harborview's future still needs both of us brothers working together. Derek met Caleb's gaze. Then his fingers trembled, deliberately by accident. Scalding tea burned Caleb's fingers red. Caleb didn't react sharply. He kept his refined composure. Derek looked anxious and said, Sorry. My hand slipped. Then Derek lifted the lid and stirred the tea. Lowering his head to drink hid his eyes. For a while after that, he stopped testing them. He stayed his usual sloppy, washed-up self. Then he suddenly looked at Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole, do you still have that liquor you gave me last time? Spare me a few bottles if you do. Mr. Mercer, that's okay, right? After Silas nodded, Derek stood and bowed to him with clasped hands. Then he followed the old butler with his usual rogue air. After he turned away, Silas and Caleb stared straight at his back. Then they exchanged a meaningful look. Inside the wine cellar, Derek suddenly stopped. The old butler turned back, puzzled. But before he could finish saying young Master Shaw, Derek took out his phone and gave a cold smile. I prepared a gift for you, Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole looked at the screen, and his heart jolted. His favorite grandson was tied up on video, crying hoarsely over and over, Grandpa, save me. Mr. Cole's eyes bulged as he stared at Derek. Derek looked at him, eyes red. So you can feel pain too, Mr. Cole? Jenny was only 5. She called you Grandpa Cole so sweetly. Did you forget? The old butler was first shocked. Then he calmed down. I didn't. He hadn't taken part in the deaths of Derek's wife and daughter, but he had watched the whole thing unfold. Derek glared at the old butler and barked. You must be wondering, even Mr. Mercer doesn't know about that family. So how do I know? Watching another cut sliced into his grandson, Mr. Cole's pupils shook. He begged in a trembling voice, Stop, make him stop. But Derek kept speaking with a grin. For 5 full years since Ivy and Jenny died, I've been asking why that day was so convenient. At that, he suddenly looked at Mr. Cole. His twisted face turned into a deep sneer. In the process, I found something interesting. Mr. Cole, you've followed Mr. Mercer since you were 13. Master and servant, yes. But more than that, brothers. But before this family, you had another love, another family. So why did they die on the same day? I mean, is it possible that decades ago in that rental room, Silas Mercer personally killed your 23-year-old wife and your son? He wanted to drive a wedge between them. But that wasn't the truth. The intel showed Silas was deeply suspicious. He trusted almost no one in his life, except Stanley Cole, whom he treated like his own brother. When Mr. Cole's wife was killed, Silas truly felt rage and pain. But Derek didn't care what the truth was. He dumped the blame straight on Silas. Mr. Cole's lips trembled. He tried to argue, but Derek cut him off. Then why did you keep your second family hidden outside? Why hide them from Silas on purpose? At that, Mr. Cole froze. He had witnessed too much of Silas's work. After his second son was born, he truly got scared. Derek gave him no time to react and kept pressing. Do you know how I found them? I found them just by watching Silas. In truth, Mr. Cole had slipped up for a while. Silas investigated carefully and found his hidden son. But he didn't interfere. He even cleared out enemies for him. Mr. Cole, kept in the dark, was speechless. He knew Silas was capable of that. Suddenly Derek widened his eyes and shouted, You think they can escape? Sooner or later, Silas will kill them. Then what do you want? I want back everything that's mine. By then, I had just left work and walked out of the tower. A rideshare car stopped right in front of me. I opened the door and saw Derek sitting in the back. I glanced into the back seat. How's the progress? Derek gave a detailed report of the afternoon. I recorded Mr. Cole. He revealed many of Silas's secrets only he knew. My fingers kept tapping the armrest by the car door. Once Silas's file appeared and I decided to back Derek. I had only one path left. If it worked, I'd have a force I could mostly trust. At that thought, I kept my face cold. The vote is in 10 days. Tell me about the 12 directors. Since Ivy died, I haven't held power for 5 years. Right now, only old Mr. Lawson can be won over directly. Aside from the 2 fence-sitters, Miles Crow and Owen Page, the other 9 are die-hard Silas loyalists. We can try to win over Frank Holt and Ron Keller. I didn't answer directly. I kept recalling Silas's file. After silence filled the car, I revealed the secrets Silas used to control them. But I gave no opinion. I let Derek analyze and decide for himself. After all, Derek had once reached that level. His judgment and methods far surpassed mine as a clerk. As we passed a busy residential area, I spoke again. Here is fine. Pull over. Derek's trusted man glanced at his boss. Only after Derek nodded did he slowly pull over. After getting out, I looked around. Once I confirmed the direction, I walked off. This time I was going to see a girl. A seemingly insignificant girl in the 3rd file. She was a minor online influencer. Because she offended people she shouldn't have, a media tycoon's troll army smeared her with fake sex scandals. The whole campaign knocked her from heaven into hell. So before contacting the boss in the 3rd file, I wanted to feel what killing without blood really meant. After 16 floors by elevator and 10 brutal floors on foot, I gently knocked on 2603, Lily Hart. Inside, the girl in white trembled. Almost no one in the scene knew her real name. I believe you. I'm here to help. Open the door first. I believe you hit her hard. Lily Hart took a breath, hope flickering, and opened the door. Bloodshot, terrified eyes appeared in the crack. I gave a gentle smile and comforted her again. I have a way. May I come in? Lily wanted to say no, but footsteps in the hall startled her. She instinctively ran inside, into the dark. I stepped in and shut the door. The room was so dark, I could only hear my own steps. So I took out my phone and checked the room. Every device that could glow had been unplugged. Not even the lights on the fridge or water dispenser were on. For the first time, I truly felt what people with power could do. Then I walked to the sofa, opened my arms and said softly, Lily, don't be scared. I'm here to save you. Then I sat down. In the dark, Summer, the million-follower makeover influencer, grew attached to me almost instantly. She curled up like a cat and rested her head on my lap. I stroked her long hair. You haven't eaten, right? I'll order food. Have some porridge for your stomach. After a moment, a tiny answer came. After ordering, I gently moved Summer's head aside. Then I got up and switched on the hall lamp. Warm light filled the room at once. But Summer suddenly screamed. With my encouragement, she slowly raised her head. It was a stunning, classic oval face. Tearful and fragile, like a porcelain beauty. For words popped into my mind. What a delicate little dove. Then I fed Summer the porridge myself. Once she was stable, I finally got up and left. Walking the cold streets, I thought about the media boss in the 3rd file. Marcus Vail entered Briarwood University's journalism program in 1997. He controlled an online troll army hundreds of thousands strong. But I couldn't find an angle yet. I had to learn what he wanted and what he feared. Meanwhile, in a classic study, a secretary busy between his legs was interrupted by a call. She put it on speaker and said coldly, "Who is this? Am I speaking to Chairman Vail's secretary? We have a big order and need to speak with him directly. I need to know the business before I report it." But the slick, middle-aged man revealed nothing. At Marcus Vail's signal, the secretary kept negotiating. Only then did he say his boss would video call Vail himself. 10 minutes later, the secretary opened a video link. Then she left the study respectfully. Marcus Vail narrowed his eyes at the video. From the landmark buildings, he recognized the place at once. Southport, the nation's 2nd biggest economic hub. Then a handsome young man slowly stepped into frame. Vail didn't recognize him, but he noticed the Patek Philippe on his wrist, worth $78.15 million. The young man pushed up his glasses and said calmly, "Mr. Vail, I've heard a lot about you. Adrian Blackwood." Vail's face stayed still, but his pupils shrank. The Blackwoods controlled over $1 trillion in assets. They were one of the nation's top financial clans. Vail's mind raced, but his face showed nothing. "Mr. Blackwood, what can I do for you? One of my companies launches a product soon. I need your support." For any career man, tying into the Blackwoods was the dream. So Vail clasped his hands and smiled. "If you need me, Mr. Blackwood, I'll do my best." A few minutes later, the call ended. Adrian smashed the laptop with a backhand swing. Then he looked at the silent secretary beside him. "Tell me about Chloe. Everything is going to plan." Only Secretary Palmer was moved by Ms. Whitmore. She may have noticed something. 3 days ago, Ms. Whitmore had lunch with a man at a waterfront restaurant. We still haven't identified him. Her people must have scrubbed his information clean. As soon as she finished, the new computer was smashed too. Then he grabbed the secretary by the hair and slammed her face onto the desk. Her whole body shook, but she didn't dare resist. A moment later, Adrian spat in her face. Send the order. Find the man who ate with Chloe. At that moment, I was reading Marcus Vale's file in my rental. As time ticked by, I finally figured out Vale's weakness and need. Now, if I could help Derek take power, then bring Marcus Vale in, I could form a true intel network of my own. At that thought, I called Derek right away. After hanging up, Derek narrowed his eyes. Then he left the bar with 2 trusted men. Elsewhere, Marcus Vale rested with his eyes closed in the back seat. Suddenly, the female secretary in front shouted. Seeing her panic, Vale opened his eyes. 2 black cars boxed them in front and back. Then, with a bang, they were hit hard. Vale gripped the handle, his face grim. He quickly wondered what nightmare he'd offended. Then Derek rolled down his window and stared at him. Questions flooded Vale's mind. Why Derek Shaw? Harborview Shipping? Or Canalgate? Are they working with Adrian Blackwood? No. Derek stopped running things years ago. He grabbed his phone to call for help. But there was no signal in the tunnel. Seeing that, Derek tossed a phone inside. Vale looked at it, bent down, and reached. The moment he picked it up, it rang sharply. He glanced at Derek, who held his phone with a cigarette in his mouth. Hello? What do you want? A gentleman wants to see you. He asked me to pass on a message. Intel is power. If it isn't, your intel isn't deep enough. Then he hung up and raised the window. Vale's eyes widened, and his body jolted. Follow the car on the left. By then, I was sitting in a white sedan. In the silence, my heart pounded hard and fast. I closed my eyes and tried to relax. This time, I had to perform before Derek and Marcus Vale. One flaw could make one or both of them suspicious. One was Canalgate's third branch number 2 in Harbor City. The other was an uncrowned king of media power. But without this, I couldn't shake Vale. Soon, the car entered a private tea house garage. I followed the middle-aged driver into the elevator. 2 guards at the tea house door opened it respectfully. Derek, seated in the lounge, stood at once. Then he bowed slightly toward me. Sir. Marcus Vale, seated on the other side, looked over. After seeing Derek's reaction, he couldn't read the young man who'd walked in. Office clothes, a briefcase. At first glance, I looked like an insurance salesman. But in this setting, ordinary was the least ordinary thing. So Vale quickly spoke with respect. But they didn't know that when both gazes landed on me, I was terrified inside. But I had to stay in character. Before reaching the sofa, I smiled and gestured. Sit, both of you. When do we start? Derek answered respectfully. Once this is handled, the timing should be right. Vale watched us. He planned to stay still and adapt. I took my eyes off Derek and turned to Vale. My smile instantly turned cold and accusing. Vale's heart sank. I stared at him coldly without speaking. The hair on his arms stood up. Then I suddenly spoke in a gentle voice. You people have guts. Is there some misunderstanding? My little sister was nearly killed by your troll army. Vale's mind went blank. May I ask who she is? Just a small streamer. A girl named Summer. Maybe you don't remember such a small job. Trevor Quinn, the useless son of Bright Crest Group director Walter Quinn, and his trash friends Evan Cross and Logan West hired you for it. Vale turned pale, shot up, and bowed to me. Please forgive me. I'll pay any price to apologize to your sister. I took out a glasses cloth and gently wiped my lenses. Hearing him, I chuckled. A price? If I hadn't heard in time, she'd be dead. She's only 23. My face and voice were frighteningly calm. Fine sweat appeared on Vale's forehead. Derek immediately stood up beside him. He pulled a gun and aimed it at Vale's forehead. I looked at Derek and raised my hand. Sit. Don't be so violent. How about this? You have a first love in Lake Haven. She's a host at Lake Haven TV. I'll use the same methods on her. She'll be ruined and hated by coworkers and family. Her whole world will be swallowed by darkness. Then this matter is settled. In Marcus Vale's file, that first love had shaped him deeply. Even after years apart, he still watched over her. To him, she was the one he cared about most. Vale's eyes widened, and his breathing quickened. His lips trembled as he pleaded, Don't. I watched him, unmoved by his panic and begging. I calmly drank tea, staring at him without blinking. As if I were watching a clown perform. He seemed to sense it. Vale slowly pulled himself together. He kept wondering who Mr. Hayes truly was. Every move he made had been seen through. Why would someone like this come to me? Last night, Adrian Blackwood of the Southern Coast Blackwoods came to me. Tonight, Mr. Hayes targeted me. Could that really be a coincidence? Vale felt he'd been dragged into a game between giants. And by chance, he had become a piece on the board. So Vale straightened his sleeves and clothes. He stood straight, looked at Ethan Hayes and said solemnly, Please be direct. I will be your foot soldier. Now he looked solemn, with no trace of his panic. Watching him, I sighed inwardly. Most of these big shots were seasoned actors. They could switch emotions in an instant. If I hadn't trusted the file, he might have fooled me. I smiled and pointed at Derek. Do you know him? Lord Shaw's name precedes him. Can Harborview Shipping, or Canalgate, protect you? Vale paused at once. Harborview alone couldn't protect him. But Canalgate wasn't true top-tier power, nor was it low-level in elite circles. For Vale and his new media network, it was just right. If it's Canalgate, yes. But then his thoughts turned, and he hesitated. Because everyone in the circle knew. Derek Shaw, Canalgate's third branch number 2, had long been sidelined by Mr. Mercer. So I gave him reassurance at the perfect moment. In just over 10 days, it'll be the 18th. Derek will give you an answer you'll like. Right, Derek? I won't let you down, sir. Watching our exchange, Vale knew Canalgate's third branch election was about to change. So he bowed to Derek and me again with a smile. I'll await Lord Shaw's good news. With that promise, the mood between us eased. But Vale suddenly changed the subject. Sir, I have some spare money for an investment. Vale spoke unhurriedly. His eyes quietly studied me. I'm quite optimistic about one project. Rivergate Media's upcoming year-end sale. I believe in Rivergate's future, but I worry about surprises. He was testing me. I didn't answer directly. I lifted my teacup. Through the steam, I stared at him and said, Adrian Blackwood contacted you. You know Mr. Blackwood? No. You asked me about investing. I don't know that field. But personally, like you, I believe in Rivergate. The meaning was clear. Vale was smart enough not to ask more. Then I looked at Derek and said, That's enough amusement for today. Derek, take Mr. Vale back to rest. Vale stood at once, clasped his hands and said goodbye. Derek escorted him to his damaged car. Watching them leave the tea room, I let out a long breath and my tension eased. But my heart was still racing, and my back was soaked. Luckily, my suit jacket hid the shirt. I had to build my nerves before summer. Otherwise, once summer came, one look at me drenched in sweat would give me away. Soon, Derek's footsteps sounded nearby. Sir, would you like to observe the next event? A few minutes later, I was in the back of a black sedan. But inside, I was screaming. Am I insane? Why did I agree? I should be going home. Stop. Stop. I want to go home. Only after the car drove steadily into the night did the changing traffic lights calm me down. Seeing more of the world was good. Besides, I was only watching. About 20 minutes later, the car entered another underground garage. Then an inner elevator took us to a lavish bathhouse. From the upper core area, we could see the floor below. Beautifully built women lined up one by one. Hands at their waists, long legs showing, they walked out of different rooms. Then Derek brought me to a hidden mezzanine. Through the monitors, we could see the suite clearly. Soon, the door opened, and an old man in a robe walked in. His name was Frank Holt, one of Harborview Shipping's 12 directors. Frank Holt bit a cigar and laughed loudly. He had his arm around a woman younger than his granddaughter. Derek, you haven't come to see me in ages. What, eyeing my vote? Derek laughed. That's right, Mr. Holt. The moment he said it, Frank, who'd been laughing seconds before, stopped smiling. The old man fixed sharp eyes on Derek. A heavy pressure rose in the room. Derek, I can pretend you never said that. Then he smiled again and patted Derek's shoulder. Come, have a few drinks with me. It's been years since we drank together. I'll drink with you. But he didn't take the glass from the old man. He grabbed the bottle and drank straight from it. Frank cheered. Good, that's my Derek. Still got that old fire. Derek wiped his mouth and looked at Frank with reddened eyes. Mr. Holt, I can't accept it. If Mr. Mercer wanted that seat, why didn't he tell me? Why didn't he tell me? I never cared about that seat. But why did he kill Ivy? Why kill Jenny? Jenny was only 5. Derek, don't say things like that lightly. Mr. Holt, you know how much I respected Mr. Mercer. But leave that aside. Let's talk about Caleb Voss, the accepted next boss of Harborview Shipping. He's an elite talent, no doubt. But elite talent only benefits Silas Mercer and Harborview Shipping. It may not benefit us. We're just old bastards who crawled out of the gutter. Caleb Voss has been giving speeches everywhere lately. He keeps saying where he'll steer this carrier once he takes over. Frank Holt lifted his glass and took a sip. He gave nothing away. He only narrowed his eyes. So Derek turned grave and went on. I bet the first thing Caleb does after taking power is clean out old dogs like us who crawled out of the mud. Only after that last line did Frank's face finally change. As Derek dug deeper, Frank's breathing grew faintly uneven. Sweat broke out on his greasy old forehead. Mr. Holt, you told me not to make wild claims. But I'm telling you, Silas planted bombs around everyone. You should remember 2 years ago, when our third branch at Harborview had a major incident. Canal Gate headquarters found a severe betrayal. A rival used our channels to smuggle goods in from Southeast Asia. Headquarters was furious. Derek only hinted at many things. Then he steered the talk another way. Frank's mind was pulled back 2 years. The old man's greasy face shifted. Do you know who pushed that whole thing? Who? Mr. Ward? Frank's hair stood up. His tiger-like eyes locked on Derek. Derek looked at Frank and spoke slowly. But Mr. Ward did it because Silas pushed him, and Silas erased every flaw for him. Then he shoved a scapegoat forward. At that, Frank had no defense left for Mr. Mercer. Watching all this, my eyelid twitched like crazy. Derek's pacing was terrifyingly good. If Derek were the one getting these files, who knew how far he could go? Then the second director, Ron Keller, was invited by Frank and entered with his bodyguard. Derek stood with a smile, pulled a gun, and fired. Ron froze, his back going cold. Behind him, the middle-aged guard bled from the forehead. His eyes stayed wide as he dropped to the floor. 7 minutes later, a white Cadillac left Elysium Club. Derek and I sat in the back, calm outside, tense inside. I'd read about Derek's brutality in the file, but seeing it firsthand still shook me. I faked a yawn. Through the mirror, I quietly studied Derek. This man who had lived in a Truman Show. Sat straight, head slightly lowered, expressionless. As if sensing my stare, Derek snapped his head up. His fierce eyes met mine in the mirror. The fierceness faded, replaced by a respectful nod. At last, the car stopped at Ethan's old apartment complex. After I got out and walked a short distance, Derek, still by the door, suddenly called, "Sir, I owe it all to you." "All to you." I waved without answering. Then I kept walking into the complex. Back in my room, I lay flat on the bed, arms spread, unmoving. 2 directors were handled now. Rivergate's big sale was getting closer. Thinking of the dark game surging beneath it all, I felt excited, nervous, eager, and shaken. I buried my face in the pillow for a long while. Then I got up and quietly went to the bookcase. I opened it and took out the newly spawned file. I didn't open it. I tossed it on the desk. Then I stepped back and started doing push-ups. Meanwhile, in a dark room, Summer reached for her screen with trembling fingers. As she scrolled, countless messages filled her eyes. New update. The group that forged rumors and doctored images of Summer has been caught. Breakdown post. All original clips and images are here. I knew Summer wasn't that kind of girl. Those pictures looked fake from the start. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Too many influencers have been exposed lately. Anyway, this is all my fault. Apology comments flooded in. All the smear videos seemed to vanish within hours. The fragile girl before the phone covered her mouth. 2 clear streams of tears rolled down her cheeks. Moments later, she broke down sobbing. Today was New Year's Eve. 3 days remained before Harborview's boss election. I was sitting in a corner of a cafe. Soon, a curly-haired older woman came in. When she saw me, her face lit up. "Ethan, you got rich lately? 3.5 million, just like that." She hadn't planned to sell her old place, but my offer was $500,000 above market. Mrs. Parker took out the contract to sign. Then she paused and asked suspiciously, "Ethan, you didn't hear something, did you? Tell me, is that area getting redeveloped? Or is the nearby school becoming a top district?" Mrs. Parker, my roommate Dana Brooks. You know her, right? Got it, got it. You young guys spend big chasing girls now. After signing and getting paid, she hurried off. I looked back at the purchase contract. A strange feeling rose in me. Mom, Dad, I bought a home. I lost my home back in college. My parents died in an accident. I remember Mom holding my hand at the end. Tears kept rolling from her eyes. I knew they couldn't let go. Then I gathered myself and smiled. One day I'll have even grander homes. Maybe a top riverfront penthouse. Maybe the Crown Unit at One Riverside. Or an old mansion in Midtown. But none may ever feel like this one does. Soon it was the 22nd. Tomorrow was Canal Gate's 3rd branch boss election. And Rivergate's year-end sale was 7 days away. Rivergate sale ads were now everywhere. These days I didn't use the 4th file. I only kept studying the updates in the old files. I had just walked into the office when Brock's voice came from behind. "Ethan, come with me to Rivergate for the final work report. Then we can relax and wait for the holidays." I nodded and answered calmly. But this time I didn't see Chloe. I didn't even see Evelyn Foster from advertising. A plain-looking manager handled the handoff. Before leaving Rivergate and heading back, my phone suddenly rang. It was Derek calling. He stood before a grave by the hills and water, holding flowers and toys. "Sir, I've only secured 5 of the 12 directors. I'll get at least 3 more before the vote. Silas hasn't noticed you, has he? Word from Mr. Cole says. Silas and Caleb don't take me seriously at all. After all, who sees a 5-year failure as a threat?" The call ended. Derek stood before the grave, worn down, and murmured, "Ivy, Silas could kill Jenny without mercy. But I still can't bring myself to kill little Zane." The next day came quickly. Outside Harborview Shipping Tower, an old man in a black mandarin jacket walked the red carpet into the tower, surrounded by black-clad guards. Then motorcades arrived one after another. The 12 directors arrived in turn. Across the street, inside a beat-up Passat, a messy old captain, Samuel Harris, held bread in one hand. The young man in the passenger seat held binoculars, bit his bread, and grumbled, "Boss, who do you think becomes the new chairman and boss? Boss, who do you think becomes the new chairman and boss? Here he comes." Caleb respectfully helped Silas walk toward the tower. After a few steps, Silas suddenly stopped. He looked straight toward the lens and nodded. That old dog. But just as he spoke, his eyes tightened. He turned the binoculars another way. Not far away, Derek's sedan slowly approached the tower. On the red carpet, Caleb said, "Dad, what's he doing here? Don't forget, he's still Harborview's nominal number 2. And he's also one of the candidates." By then, the black sedan had stopped. Derek appeared before everyone, hands in his pockets, loose as ever. He smiled and looked around. First, he nodded to Silas and Caleb on the steps. Then, seeing Samuel Harris, his smile deepened. From afar, he waved to his old friend. Then he walked up to Silas and Caleb. "Mr. Mercer." "Caleb. Sorry. I slept late last night. Almost overslept. Those little bastards didn't even wake me." Silas struck the ground hard with his cane. "Disgraceful trash." Caleb smiled and called him Derek. Then he quickly helped the old man inside. In the car, the messy Samuel frowned. "Something's off. Derek feels off. Boss, the wind's picking up." In the meeting room, former Third Branch boss Silas sat at the long table, along with his successor Caleb, another candidate Wesley Carter, and Derek, the 2 witnesses sent by headquarters, sat at opposite ends of the table. Only 15 minutes remained before the ceremony. Derek yawned and stretched wide. The noise drew everyone's eyes. He grinned lazily and gave a casual salute. Silas, chatting at the head of the table, looked over. His face darkened as he glared at Derek. Caleb sat right across from Derek. Behind his gold-rimmed glasses, his eyes were full of mockery. 5 minutes later, the headquarters witness who'd been chatting with Silas rapped the table with his knuckles. 10 minutes left. Please get ready. Once the meeting starts, no water calls or bathroom breaks. The room grew terrifyingly heavy. The 18 people present held high status. In both Harborview and Canal Gate, their blood-soaked aura pressed down on the room. Derek narrowed his eyes. His gaze passed over 2 directors, Frank Holt and Ron Keller. Their reactions were a little too strong. Fine sweat covered their greasy foreheads. The witness said they could still move freely, but in those last 10 minutes, no one spoke. Just then, one of the 12 directors' phones suddenly vibrated. Every pair of eyes snapped toward him. Director Quentin Price apologized and hurried aside. "Hello?" No one knew what he heard. Quentin's voice rose, his face turning ugly. But he hung up in under a minute, before Director Price could fully sit back down. As if on cue, the moment he sat, Director Graham Doyle's private phone vibrated. Graham reacted almost exactly like Quentin. He also stepped aside and answered. A strange tension seeped into the frozen room. The 12 old foxes exchanged looks. Each tried to read something from the other's faces. Director Doyle put away his phone and passed Silas on his way back. Silas's half-closed eyes suddenly opened. "Graham. And Mr. Mercer." After Graham sat down, a third call came from Director Howard Pierce's jacket. The third straight call made the room truly eerie. Silas sat up straight. Like an old tiger, he became dangerous again. Then Director Pierce's phone rang again. Derek's smile grew brighter. These last 3 were the easiest to sway. Only by grabbing them at the last moment, with the pressure in the room shifting, could he force them to choose. At no vice bar, Leon Vance spoke into the phone. "Director Pierce, this is Leon Vance. 15 years ago, you slept with Graham Doyle's wife and fathered a daughter, Sophie Doyle. But did you know Silas Mercer set that whole thing up? That night, Silas deliberately sent Graham away and drugged the drinks you 2 had. The meeting begins. Silence. Please hand in your phones." Black-clad guards carried trays to the long table. Phones were placed onto the red cloth one by one. The old man in the black mandarin jacket spoke with solemn force. "Honor the warrior saint. Pay your respects." All candidates stood and faced the warrior statue. After the ritual, they moved straight to business. Candidate Wesley Carter stood, took a breath and said, I withdraw my candidacy." "Are you sure?" Wesley lowered his head and trembled. "I'm sure." After he sat, all eyes shifted from him to Derek. Derek shrugged, smiled, and curled his lip. "Why look at me? Keep going." As soon as he said that, Silas stared at him coldly. "Your wings are hard now. Wanna fly solo?" Caleb pushed up his gold-rimmed glasses and said nothing. The mood grew heavier and stranger. Some directors stayed calm, but more had shifting eyes. Even they didn't know where this would go. Then the old man in black tapped the table. Silence. The meeting continues. Those who believe Derek Shaw is better suited to lead Harborview forward, raise your right hand. As his words fell, the room went briefly silent. Derek sat up straight. Silas looked between the directors in shock. Then old Mr. Lawson raised his right hand and said, Derek Shaw. Silas and Caleb weren't surprised by Lawson's choice. They gave him one deep look, then looked away. Frank's old face flushed as he also raised his hand. To Derek Shaw. Derek Shaw. The voices made Silas's eyes go wide. Disbelief filled his face. Caleb's fake smile froze. Thinking of the 3 calls before the meeting, everyone knew something was changing. Quentin Price exchanged looks with the other 2 who'd taken calls. They seemed to see the same shock in each other's eyes. If their calls were anything like his, then with the 3 of them, Derek had 6 votes. That was already half the board. Then 2 of them took a deep breath. Under Silas Mercer's vicious glare, they raised their hands together. Derek Shaw. Right out of the gate, Derek had 5 votes. The 2 fence-sitting directors he'd contacted stopped hesitating. They both raised their right hands for Derek. Howard Pierce, who took the last call, raised his hand too. 8 votes now. A majority. Derek stopped hiding it and broke into a bright smile. He looked away from Silas's man-eating stare. Then he turned to the 2 directors he'd always called fence-sitters. Mr. Crow. Mr. Page. Time to choose. Derek's aura now matched Silas's. Both men shuddered. They looked at each other and were about to raise their hands. But facing Silas's fierce stare, they lowered them again. A moment later, they still raised their right hands, trembling. They didn't look up or say a name. They just froze there. Derek looked to the senior witness from headquarters. After a brief pause, the old man announced in a deep voice, Derek Shaw, 10 votes. No vote counts as opposition. Now, those who believe Caleb Voss should lead Harborview forward, raise your right hand. Caleb Voss, 1 vote, 12 against. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, after a flash of lightning, the gloomy sky burst into heavy rain. Silas, dark-faced and leaning on his cane, left with Caleb, surrounded by black-clad guards, and got into the car. Inside the Passat, Samuel Harris gripped his binoculars. Watching the motorcades leave, he frowned and said, Something happened. Something big. Move. Have the team find out what happened in that room. Derek's whole 5-year decline was just an act for Silas. You old bastard. So this day finally came. His words cut off. The smile on his face froze. He'd wanted to gloat over his old rival. But thinking of Derek's 5-year patience, the smile vanished. He had fought Silas his whole life. He knew exactly how hard that old bastard was to beat. I was staring out the window when my phone rang. Okay, I understand. Meanwhile, in a modern Harbor City office, Marcus Vale, the media boss of the gray publicity world, murmured, It really was Derek. He didn't stay shocked long. He quickly hid every emotion. Mr. Blackwood, I'm sorry. Something came up. I really can't help you. After Derek hung up with the headquarters elder, he looked at the rain and dark clouds outside, smiling. But his eyes still weren't relaxed. I stood by the window, looking at the city under the rain. I thought back to my last talk with Derek. What kind of force could dig up all of this? Elsewhere, Derek strode toward another meeting room. Then his steps suddenly stopped. He glanced at the crowd around him. His heart suddenly clenched, his scalp tingling. Now that he had taken the seat, he feared that young man, in office clothes, carrying a briefcase, who looked like an ordinary clerk in every move. He hadn't won because his methods surpassed Silas's. He had won because that man played the board from God's view. Derek stood before the meeting room. A woman in black-rimmed glasses rushed in and said, Everyone, stand. As Derek walked in, everyone called out, Chairman Shaw. Derek raised a hand and sat at the head. He casually listened to the group manager speak. At the same time, at 9 Courts Estate in Harbor City's East District, Mr. Cole, the butler who hadn't followed Silas due to illness, lay in a recliner with his eyes closed, humming old opera. After some time, Mr. Cole suddenly opened his eyes. Then he picked up the red phone. It was a number only Silas should have known. After 2 beeps, This is Stanley Cole. Something happened. Derek's decline was fake. He secretly joined with 10 directors and stole Caleb's seat. Mr. Mercer wants you to lead the team and kill Derek. Move now. Before moving, have everyone surrender all comms, including yours. Mr. Mercer suspects you also have a mole. Also, to keep headquarters from stopping this during the operation, do not answer any call, even from Mr. Mercer or me. After a pause, the voice said coldly, Understood. He had no reason to doubt Mr. Cole. For one, only Mr. Mercer should know his number. For another, everyone knew Mr. Cole's loyalty to Silas. After hanging up, Mr. Cole dialed a second number. In the car, Silas suddenly growled at Caleb. Why panic? One last lesson. Only the living can be bosses. Once you're dead, it's all over. He had built this for a lifetime. A single vote couldn't strip away his power. As long as Derek died, Caleb could still take over. He picked up an old burner. It connected to his most elite force. Every one of them had special forces level skills. Silas was shocked inside, but his face showed nothing. He hung up and called again. Still no answer. He tried another number. No answer. Silas's face changed. His proudest strike team had gone dark. Silas gripped the phone and called his other men. It's fine. It has to be fine. For the first time in decades of scheming, he felt real fear. By then, I had just gotten off work and was eating Southeast Asian food with my coworker Jenna Collins. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. I picked it up, left the restaurant, and dropped my smile. Then I opened the link on the screen. Derek's first-person view appeared before me. A dusty van blocked the underground garage exit. Black-clad guards surrounded Derek. Derek narrowed his eyes at a figure in the distance. He pulled out a cigarette and lit it. At the same time, dull gunshots rang out. The middle-aged man in the black jacket wasn't tall, but his arms were long, and his palms were wide. The instant the guards fired, he pushed off and blurred sideways. He pressed close to a sedan, ducking and weaving like a ghost, using cars as cover. His long arms drove his body forward like iron whips. Then he ripped off a car door with one slap and used it as a shield. Bullets hammered the door like rain. The man charged at Derek through the gunfire. Derek's eyelid twitched at the sight. He knew how insane these traditional martial arts freaks could be. But that circle hid deep, mostly kept by major families. As the man tore off another door and charged with it, he didn't notice the black cars behind him. Men rose one after another, gun barrels poking out from every angle. Without a pause, bullets tore in from all sides. No matter how strong martial arts were, they trained the body. They could turn 1 point of force into 10. They could sharpen the body and mind. They could spot a muzzle before the trigger was pulled. But they weren't gods. Watching the bloody, twitching body on screen, Ethan started gasping. What kind of power did the elites in this world truly hold? Derek also let out a breath and narrowed his eyes. He glanced at the man only a few steps away. Let's go. The black sedan drove into the rainy night. Tonight, where ordinary people couldn't see, the purge against Silas was underway. Under absolute intel power, this was a dimensional strike. The convoy reached 9 courts. In the courtyard, old Mr. Cole answered the phone. Sir, Derek is here. Silas's eyes darkened. He raised his head. His gaze swept over Stanley Cole, Julia, Little Zane, and Caleb. Hands in his pockets, Derek entered the familiar Chinese garden. Uncle Derek. The little boy felt none of the adult tension and called out happily. His small legs kicked forward as he ran to him. The moment he moved, every adult behind him changed color. Miss Uncle Derek? I did. Ha, little guy. Did you get chubbier again? Derek lifted the boy and spun him around. Mr. Cole. Silas ignored him. Derek set the child down and looked at the gentle woman, tense and pleading. Julia, take little Zane away. Mr. Mercer and I need to talk. Why do this? I treated you well. 26 years ago, if not for me, you would have frozen to death beside some nameless dumpster. 26 years ago. Derek pulled out a cigarette and lit it. He took a deep drag, narrowed his eyes and sneered. The survival pit plan? Mr. Mercer, how could you do it? Jenny loved you so much. She'd dive into your arms and touch your stubble with her tiny hands. Sometimes she'd try to tug your beard, then let go before it hurt. She'd nuzzle you with her forehead. The last hope in Silas's heart died. He slowly closed his eyes. Caleb sat to the side. Mr. Cole stood beside the old man. The air went still. I have one more question. He opened his eyes and looked at Derek, his voice hoarse. Today is too strange. He still couldn't understand how Derek had done it. I just told them what you did to them. I intercepted your contact route to your team in advance. Then I led them into the area I set up. One fire wiped them out. As for Malcolm Graves, the Peguaquin expert, his kung fu was real. It took over a dozen guns to kill him. But before he could finish, Stanley Cole clenched his fists. His old body shook as he shouted, Silas! Silas looked at Stanley and seemed to understand. But he couldn't believe it. He had trusted no one in his life, except this brother. 50 years ago, did you kill Lily and Will? Silas was first stunned. Then his eyes widened as he turned to Derek. Mr. Cole, I'm sorry. I lied to you. You were the only one Mr. Mercer ever trusted. He saw you as a real brother. Derek stood, dusted himself off, and apologized to Stanley. Stanley looked struck by lightning and swayed. Silas gasped, then suddenly laughed. A gunshot cracked. Caleb had his hand in his coat, reaching for something. A bullet pierced his forehead. Eyes wide, he fell before Silas. You grew up with Julia. That girl never got involved in our business. Bear her. Bear Zane. Was Ivy involved? Was Jenny involved? Expressionless, Derek took the steel blade from his man. He walked behind the old man and covered his mouth with one hand. With the other, he drew the blade across his throat. The old man still tried to beg for his daughter and grandson. He struggled unwillingly as blood poured from his throat. His body slowly went still. "Mr. Cole, go." Lost and hollow, Stanley lowered his head and slammed into the wall. After Julia took the child inside, she came back worried and saw the horror. She covered her mouth and fell to the floor. "Julia, don't worry. I'll give Zane a way to live." After saying that, he pressed a gun to the back of her head. He held her head in his arms and closed his eyes. Meanwhile, Ethan read the long account Derek had sent. "Damn it, I overplayed this. Derek alone is this dangerous. Can I survive Chloe and Adrian's war starting tomorrow? Can I still run? Europe? America? The Arctic? I don't even have enough money. Shit." Inside a solemn old ancestral hall, several elders wore long robes. They sat in grand chairs as hurried footsteps sounded outside. The elders all looked toward the main door. "Chairman, elders, do we have a result?" "Yes. Silas Mercer's forces have been wiped out. His daughter Julia, son-in-law Caleb, grandson Zane, and old butler Stanley Cole are all dead." The hall went silent. The elders began whispering. Their faces were full of shock and fear. Old Mercer ruled for a lifetime, yet fell to his foster son. This Derek Shaw is truly something. 5 years. He acted for 5 whole years. Everyone knew Lord Shaw of Harborview was finished. How did Derek do it? Old Mercer's elites were handpicked and heavily trained. They all had real combat records in war zones. A young talent like this is a blessing for Canal Gate. "Yates, issue the notice." "Yes, sir." Canal Gate had long gone legit, turning into a business alliance. In the shared apartment, Ethan finished a set of push-ups and sat shirtless at his desk. Stacks of Chloe's files lay spread across it. After reading for a while, he shoved them away, agitated. The crushing pressure and fear nearly swallowed his hard-won courage. In games between giants, lives were just numbers. Take Silas and Derek alone. That fight had already erased lives in the double digits. Woken from deep sleep, Porsche manager Mia Bennett stared at the unknown number. She frowned, hesitated, then answered. "Come to no vice bar." Mia froze, then realized who it was. The struggle, restraint, and madness in his voice made her remember him at once. "I'll be right there." She yawned, got up, and carefully searched her closet. She chose a black jacket and a pink floral dress. No stockings, just black ankle socks and flats. Then she rushed into a cab. "Sir, I'm here. Someone is waiting by the door." Mia stepped out of the elevator and looked around the lively No Vice bar. As she reached the entrance, a middle-aged manager came forward. "Excuse me, are you Ms. Bennett?" "Huh?" "Yes, that's my name. The gentleman is waiting. This way, please." Mia entered the club, hit by heat and blasting DJ music. Watching the young crowd sway wildly, she was stunned that there were private rooms upstairs. Minutes later, she saw black-clad guards outside a private room. Her heartbeat suddenly quickened. Mr. Hayes was no ordinary rich man. The door opened. Purple, red, and blue lights made the room feel seductive. Mia held her breath and looked at the dark figure before the huge glass wall. "Mr. Hayes, come here." Ethan's eyes were half closed. All his emotions poured out in the neon and music. Yet his mind became unbelievably calm. Thoughts flew. Dozens of minutes later, Did you think I was casual? Even if I were, I'd sell myself for more. And this is my most precious thing. Good news. My runaway emotions and reason were dragged back from the edge. Bad news. I shouldn't have called Mia to Derek's turf." Ethan rested both arms on the sofa and crossed his legs. This woman was smart. She had likely caught my truest emotions. "Let's go." Ethan stood to grab his trench coat, but Mia got up first. Barefoot, she stumbled over to help. "You're smart." Outside the bar, Derek's men had a car ready. It drove into the rainy night. Ethan looked out. Rain scattered light under the street lamps. The city looked beautiful and blurred. "Do what you're supposed to do. Don't try to touch dangerous things." Ethan took out his phone and transferred money to Mia. 500,000. The extra amount was recognition of her status. Mia took out her phone and stared at the long number on screen. Ethan's words echoed in her ears. Passing headlights swept across Ethan's profile. Mia didn't fully understand, but awe rose in her anyway. "Pull over by the curb." Mia understood, said goodbye and opened the door. Ethan handed her an umbrella. Mia stood beside the car, watching it disappear into the night. After one night, Ethan woke in his cramped shared apartment. He had just stepped out, when his roommate Dana Brooks rushed out with a bag. The sky finally cleared. Ethan looked up and took a deep breath. He squeezed onto the subway with his briefcase and reached the office tower. Ethan looked up, stunned by the projection on the glass wall. Rivergate sale, 3 days to go. Many people in the plaza were doing the same. Damn, that's how big players do it. Yeah. Brock spotted Ethan in the crowd. He walked over, looked up with him, and they headed back together. When will Adrian Blackwood make his move? At noon, Ethan went to the cafeteria with Brock and Jenna Collins. Ethan, what did you get? Oh, cola wings. Can I trade you my sweet and sour ribs? Sure. The three sat in a corner with their trays. Right away, chatter rippled through the cafeteria. Something happened. Rivergate's in deep trouble. Check the news. Rivergate's been burning cash for half a month. They're screwed now. The penalties alone are huge. Someone's trying to bury Rivergate. All three froze and exchanged grim looks. Looking around, they saw employees from different companies, either scrolling their phones or rushing to check them. Cold screen light reflected on every face. It's here. Finally, he quickly opened the trending lists. Rivergate topics had nearly taken them all. Rivergate's top 3 streamers, joined by several others, jointly accuse Rivergate's 10 sins. Rivergate treats us like cash machines. We're people, not machines. Rivergate streamer dies suddenly. Family gets only 60,000. Rivergate sale spends over 10 million a day on ads. A planned scheme. Led by Rivergate's top influencers, it blew up online instantly. The traffic was so massive it even crashed the platform. Brutal. They're trying to crush Rivergate for good. When we went to Rivergate before, the company and influencers seemed fine. I'm curious. Even if Adrian didn't cheat, were you that sure my intel alone could turn this storm around? They barely ate a few bites. Then the three prepared to head back. Their Rivergate ad project wasn't badly affected. Only a small final payment was left. But their company had taken many sale-related ad jobs lately. If the sale collapsed, most of that money was gone. Ethan walked to the elevator as tense employees hurried past. A heavy, stifling mood was spreading. Rivergate was a top influencer incubator in Harbor City, even nationwide. It was also the first to cash in through livestream commerce. If it worked, finance would get a new unicorn. The elevator arrived, and the three headed to the office. The dark, crushing mood made Brock and Jenna tense too. Even their breathing grew quiet. Ethan sat back at his desk. Terrifying. Compared with Derek and Silas's fight, Chloe and Adrian's clash was truly terrifying. No blades, no bullets. Their battlefield was the invisible web. They blinded millions and guided their thoughts, then used their mouths to shift the tide. Where would this all flow in the end? He was just an ordinary office worker. Even with a cheat that spawned detailed intel, his view still limited his thinking. At first, with only Derek and Marcus Vale's files, plus the unused fourth file, he dared claim he could shape the game and make Chloe beg on her knees. But after seeing this storm of pressure and power, Ethan lost confidence. He even wanted to hide, but he knew he'd picked a side. There was no way back. Under the clear sky after the rain, in Chloe's office at the top of the same tower, fireworks from her 8th birthday bloomed before her eyes. Her grandfather's hearty laugh echoed in her ears. Who says girls are less than boys? From now on, my Chloe is the Whitmore Tigress. This eldest Whitmore princess, a flower of wealth and power, now showed a trace of fatigue on her cold, commanding face. She leaned back in her chair, legs crossed. In this storm stirring tens of billions, she was the one bearing all the pressure. Strong, brilliant, unmatched. But who remembered she was still a woman? Third Secretary Natalie Stone stood before Chloe, feeling her fierce aura. Ms. Whitmore, how's the company? Everyone was already tense. Then a scandal this big broke out. Everyone is panicking and lost. Hundreds of companies in the tower are affected. Everyone can feel the suffocating cloud. And Rivergate at the center is in chaos. Everyone is asking if the year-end sale can still happen. PR, advertising, streamer relations, almost every department's phones are blowing up. Send notice. Rivergate Media will hold a press conference in 2 hours to address every trending issue. Also, have legal send notices to all related streamers, major accounts posting improper claims, and media outlets. I'll sue them until they're bankrupt. Yes. Notify everyone. In 15 minutes, I'll give a company-wide video address. Yes. Go. Yes. Natalie's heart raced. She backed up a few steps before leaving. Once in the hall, she hurried off. Soon, she broke into a run like a gust of wind. Chloe's orders spread through the company fast. Evelyn Foster from advertising leaned by the door, arms crossed, watching the mood shift. She had crossed paths with Ethan in the Maybach. Is this Ms. Whitmore's charm? After the order came, the panicked staff instantly found their anchor. Everyone held their phones, waiting for the video address in 15 minutes. The screen lit up. Chloe wore a white V-neck chiffon blouse, with a black shawl, seated behind her desk. Her bright eyes looked into the camera. Hello, Rivergate Media colleagues. I'm Chloe Whitmore, East Harbor Airport. Adrian Blackwood strode out of arrivals in sunglasses. His female secretary followed half a step behind with a briefcase. Four black-clad guards surrounded him. Mr. Blackwood, look. Ms. Whitmore is speaking to her company. Adrian looked at Chloe on the screen. He loved the strong, proud, queen-like woman. Very inspiring. Yes, Ms. Whitmore truly stands with any man. A beauty who outshines them all. What does Chloe have in hand? Did you find out? Mostly streamer contract issues. But with our guidance, netizens don't care if the contracts were legal. We framed Rivergate as a company that ignores human lives and squeezes influencers for data and traffic. Feels a little too smooth. Our plants, Felix Grant, Mason Reed, and Claire Ford, all move too smoothly. I met them in secret. There's nothing off. What about Grace Palmer? Ms. Whitmore transferred her out of Harbor City. We've only spoken by phone. Call her now. I'll speak to her myself. The call rang once, then was cut off. Minutes later, the same number called back. Grace's lowered voice sounded in the car. Secretary Palmer, I miss your body. That other side under your polished look. Even surprised me. I barely touched you and it was like, Mr. Blackwood? Mr. Blackwood, what are you saying? The call ended quickly. Adrian closed his eyes. His fingers kept tapping the glass. Grace is dead. The mantis stalks the cicada, but the oriole waits behind. Chloe wants to be that oriole. Don't let her hold that press conference. Phone. The secretary immediately handed him a satellite phone. Adrian made call after call. The Blackwood family's power kept waking up. If he might lose by the rules, he'd break them. The old Whitmore bastard was already in intensive care. The rest couldn't wait for me to marry Chloe. Inside Dreamstart Creative, Ethan, Brock, and Jenna gathered together, watching Chloe's internal video speech. Its force came through the screen. Even the 3 non-Rivergate employees felt fired up. Incredible. Ms. Whitmore is such a badass. To everyone at Rivergate, please trust me. Stand behind me and fight with me to the last moment. On screen, Chloe finished, stood, and stepped out from behind the desk. Facing the camera, she bowed to every employee. Then manager Karen Mills hurried in on heels. She clapped and gathered everyone. Everyone, get back to work. Don't waste time. Rivergate upstairs has paid every remaining balance early. They also said any company ads tied to sales on their platform will be covered by them if unpaid. Move, get busy. Ethan watched the office mood change. If Adrian didn't cheat, and if the Whitmores didn't sit back, Chloe would win this round no matter what. No wonder she dared bet everything on it. Time flew. 2 hours later, Rivergate's largest conference room was packed with reporters. Chloe entered solemnly, surrounded by her people. The moment she stepped in, every camera aimed at her. Flashbulbs lit up at once. Everyone, please quiet down. Her eyes swept over the reporters and photographers. But a strange mood spread fast. First came calls and messages. Reporters nudged each other, their faces changing. Ms. Whitmore, sorry. Our bosses just assigned us elsewhere. We need to leave early. Same here, Ms. Whitmore. Orders from above. Please understand. Chloe stood at the podium and watched the lively room empty out. A chill wrapped around her. This was the power of real power. Inside Dreamstart Creative, Ethan watched messages spread wildly in the group chat. His face stayed calm, but the hair on his arms stood up. For ordinary people, all of this felt unreal. In Harborview Shipping's chairman's office in the East District, Derek had both legs propped on the grand desk. Listening to his secretary's report, he sneered. These big shots are way crueler than us. After taking the seat, he gained access to Canal Gate's intel channels. Right now, every major figure in Harbor City was watching Adrian and Chloe's game. The Blackwoods represented the Southern Coast business circle. Chloe was in Harbor City, but the local circle hadn't accepted her. Their fight was entertainment for the powerful. Plenty were waiting to tear into Rivergate's assets. It's not over yet. Ms. Whitmore hasn't necessarily lost. Interesting. Your branch's new boss election is in 15 days, on the 18th. Right before Chloe's big sale. That's enough for today. Call me when you decide. I'll wait until midnight. He lifted the curls on his forehead and rubbed them with his fingers. Following that thought, his eyelid twitched. In this chess game, Chloe and Adrian were the generals. Maybe he was only a pawn crossing the river. Why did the gentleman choose me? In a top CBD tower by the waterfront, Marcus Vale looked at the public opinion data his men handed him. Even he felt a chill. Chloe's mouth has been gagged. So that gentleman saw today coming. Damn it. He can't expect me to jump in now, can he? That's suicide. In Rivergate's main conference room, Chloe coldly watched the few remaining reporters and photographers packing up. Her stare rattled them. They packed faster and fled. Chloe rested a hand on the podium, long fingers digging into it. Many Rivergate staff still watched her. She couldn't show panic. Third secretary Natalie Stone ran up, panicked. Chloe only glanced at her. Natalie shut her mouth and stood aside. Rivergate team, it's clear. We are facing the biggest crisis in our history. Our voice has been gagged. Our face has been smeared. They want to paint us as monsters. Chloe didn't leave. She was Rivergate's backbone. If she fell, Rivergate had no comeback. Beautiful, strong, and tragic. She made this her stage. Under her words, the Rivergate staff in the room were moved. The emotional ones teared up. Fear was driven out. In its place burned a frustrated fire. Thank you for fighting beside me. With that, she bowed and walked off amid thunderous applause. She strode toward her office, heels clicking sharp and firm. In the hallway, Chloe stared ahead. Talk, we just got calls. The 3 A-list actors we signed, plus the superstar singer, can't come. They said Rivergate has a major PR crisis, and working with us would hurt their image and value. Of course, that's just the excuse. From what I found, Adrian Blackwood put the word out in the industry. Anyone endorsing us is disrespecting the Blackwoods. I understand. Also, our 3 overseas e-commerce markets have channel problems. Logistics partners in Southeast Asia, Europe, and America have suspended service. We have contracts, but they're blaming Rivergate and dragging it into court. If it takes months, we won't survive. Leave it to me. I'll solve it. Under Natalie's gaze, Chloe walked firmly into her office. Alone in the room, Chloe finally let part of her mask fall. Her stunning face turned pale and helpless. She allowed herself 1 minute of weakness. A minute later, she sat up straight, calm again, and opened the drawer. She took out a phone and called home. Adrian dared break the wager so openly. She had to ask if her family would just stand by. I want to see Grandpa. Chloe, Grandpa is resting. What is it? Are you that eager to sell your daughter? Has the Whitmore family fallen so low it must trade a daughter for marriage? You brat. Are you questioning your father? Without the Whitmores, do you think you could build this? In just 2 years? Chloe hung up before he finished. She knew her family had abandoned her. Otherwise, Adrian couldn't have gone this far. Chloe took a deep breath and called her fiancé, Adrian Blackwood. Chloe, if you admit defeat now, I'll help you lift Rivergate back up. It'll be our shared business as husband and wife. Hearing that fake voice, Chloe trembled slightly. She said nothing. She didn't want to just bark helplessly. She leaned back and looked at the endless blue sky outside. She thought of the elite circle's talk about Derek taking power. Then she remembered her first deal with Mr. Hayes. She grabbed her phone and dialed one last number. At Dreamstart Creative, Ethan was at his desk. Seeing the number pop up, his heart raced. Fine sweat quickly formed on his forehead. Shit, she really called. Ethan stared at the phone like it was burning his hand. Power on paper was nothing like seeing it firsthand. His view of the world kept falling apart. Ethan shook off the nightmare. He had to respond. He didn't answer. He hung up. He told Jenna and Brock and left the office. In the long hall, Ethan heard his own heavy heartbeat. His body burned as pressure sent adrenaline raging. At the hall's end, by the window, he looked over the city and called back. Looks like you're in trouble again, Ms. Whitmore. Need help? Mr. Hayes, can you people? If you can pay. Of course, we'll discuss the price in person. They didn't talk long. Ethan let out a breath. He looked at the sunlit city, then turned toward the elevators. Mr. Hayes. We meet again. Moments later, Ethan entered the office. Mr. Hayes, I have a question. On our first call, you once said this. Ms. Whitmore, I almost pity you. To us, you're a beautiful canary trapped in a gilded cage, fighting a story with a fixed ending. You never know that behind your all-in gamble, countless people watch your every move like a joke. They even clap every time your career takes off. Chloe read every word carefully. A tragic look crossed her stunning face. Now, Ethan's words were coming true. She seemed unable to escape her fixed ending. Mr. Hayes, is my ending really fixed? Of course not. If you want, at least not now. Ethan quietly analyzed his cheat. White files mostly targeted billionaires. Of the files so far, Derek had Canal Gate behind him. Marcus Vale was rooted in Harbor City, a media giant in the gray zone. They could resist Adrian and help Chloe at just the right points. That was how the files triggered. Mr. Hayes, name your price. She kept it brief, direct, no games. Ethan watched Chloe and knew this proud woman had yielded. His smile grew brighter. Their first meeting flashed in his mind. Chloe had drawn her Colt M2000, pressed it to his forehead, and he had been terrified. When Grace fell bloody at his feet, his body went cold and blank. But now the roles had changed. Ms. Whitmore, when we first met, you asked me what it cost to kill Adrian. I said, be my woman. That deal still stands. Choose your words carefully, Mr. Hayes. If she would sell her body, why fight fate at all? What a shame. 100 million. Also, you owe me 3 favors. Ethan's smile vanished in an instant. Excitement roared in his eyes as he spoke with no room for refusal. Chloe didn't care about the money. To her, it was extra. But at the second condition, her eyelid twitched. Chloe saw the 100 million as an add-on. She didn't know that was what Ethan cared about most. Only things you can do without crossing your bottom line. Chloe took a deep breath. She felt sad, but helpless. Beautiful women had always drawn cruel fates. Deal. Chloe picked up the red phone and called. How much cash is left in the company account? Understood. Keep operations running, then transfer the rest to my account. Rivergate had burned cash for half a month. Little remained. Chloe hung up and tapped the desk. Then she made several more calls. Her friends' clear voices came through. Chloe, I sent the money. Sorry, it's not much. That's all I have. Can you hold on? My family won't let me help, but I sent money. If it's not enough, we'll find more. Fight them. If we can't fly out, we want to see you fly. Ethan's phone vibrated. He glanced at the transfer alert, then put it away fast. He feared he couldn't hide his excitement. Ethan leaned back and crossed his legs. Meeting Chloe's gaze, he nodded with a smile. Now I'll state my first request. Go ahead. A few days ago, you invited me to dinner. In the car, you let me touch your legs. I said, another time. I think this is that time. Shock flashed across Chloe's stunning face. Then came anger and shame, but she kept control. Please. She kept her line, but knew how to bend. Chloe knew she had misjudged Ethan's position. Maybe this was his way of showing goodwill. She lifted her leg. No man had ever touched her body. Even as strong as she was, her leg trembled. Ethan stood and walked to her. He reached out and placed his palm on Chloe's calf. Feeling that perfect touch, he slid his palm upward. Under Chloe's furious stare, his fingers tore the stocking. Then he pulled back and sat down. Second request. Kiss me. Chloe had never faced this. Her eyes turned colder as she stood. Her heels clicked hard, and a fragrant breeze passed. She hooked Ethan's chin, bent down, and brushed his lips. Then she returned to her seat. Ethan licked his lips. All he felt was soft and cool. First kiss, Ms. Whitmore? Chloe didn't answer. She just shot him a murderous look. Now you owe me only one favor. I haven't decided yet. Another time. Now it's time to solve your problem. Chloe looked away, but caught him licking his lips. She wanted to pull out the Colt M2000 and shoot him. Ethan realized his loser core had never changed. He still wanted to rub his fingers, even smell them. He still wanted to savor that kiss. Even with the cheat, he was still that useless office clerk for now. That wouldn't change fast. Chloe was a jewel at the very top of society. Her status and beauty rivaled any princess. This was the thrill of climbing upward. Chloe lowered her leg, her gaze icy. She saw the run in her nude stocking. Her perfectionism made it feel like claws in her chest. She forced down the urge to remove it and faced Ethan. Tell me the current situation. With your channels, you still need me to? Chloe sneered, then briefed him seriously. She never let emotion affect business. Ethan leaned back, tapped the desk, and thought, maybe I really do have talent, just as I guessed. Adrian choked off publicity and gagged Rivergate. He hit the endorsers, leaving the traffic nowhere to go. Then he cut global logistics so even sold goods can't ship. Total kill shot. I understand. Go on. For days, I rehearsed countless times and wrote countless lines. Now let me stir the storm. Under Chloe's gaze, Ethan took out his phone. He found a contact and hit call. After glancing at Chloe, he put it on speaker. The ringtone echoed through the office. Chloe watched Ethan, her doubts fading. Every old suspicion became one thought. He was a real boss. Mr. Vale. Mr. Hayes. Long time no see. I have a job for you. After it's done, you can move your circle up a tier, and you'll get a steady profit share from them. That share will be about 1 point. In his waterfront office, Marcus Vale turned serious. The reward was huge, so was the risk. But Rivergate, yes? Adrian Blackwood contacted me days ago. I turned him down. Today, my team's platform opinion reports are on my desk. Mr. Hayes, these waters run deep. 1.5 points. If you ask Mr. Hayes, I'll risk my life. Marcus stood, looked out the window, and breathed in. He answered respectfully. In Southport, he couldn't face the Blackwoods. But in Harbor City's rules applied. Marcus Vale. You should know him. Humph. Chloe nodded. She had already guessed it was him. The only Vale who could help her was Marcus. Marcus was cautious, so his quick yes surprised her. Rivergate was a hot potato. Was he really not afraid of Adrian? Everyone was waiting to build a new traffic empire on its ruins. Thinking of that, Chloe gave Ethan a deep look. He dialed a second number and put it on speaker 2. Mr. Shaw, is that boss seat stable? Thanks to you, sir, all is well. Hearing this, Chloe's eyelid twitched. I have a job for you. After it's done, they'll give you a 1.5 point profit share. As you say, sir. Good. I don't care how you do it. In 2 days, coordinate Southeast Asia, Europe, and the Americas. All ships to domestic ports must be on time. Bring Rivergate's sale products back fast. Yes. Derek was now the boss of Harborview Shipping. And Canal Gate started in transport. Back then, it focused on inland rivers. 2 issues solved. He smiled at Chloe, calm and composed. As for the last issue, endorsers. Or rather, the sale day sellers. Rivergate booked A-list actors and a superstar singer. Then tell me, superstar Ryan Sterling, diva Aurora Blake, and music god Julian Frost. Are they qualified enough? Ethan controlled his face and tone as he named them. Even Chloe looked shocked. They were her top choices, but all had refused. At their level, even without their backers, their names and influence alone made them untouchable. Hiring them required unimaginable connections. Ethan watched Chloe fall briefly dazed. He spoke at the perfect moment to the eldest Whitmore daughter. Ms. Whitmore, visiting Mr. Caldwell is on you. With that, he stood to leave. I'll wait for your call. Only after Ethan took a few steps did Chloe snap back. She calmly pressed the call button. Natalie. Yes. The office door shut softly. Only Chloe remained in the vast top floor space. She stared at the door, her long lashes trembling. Her icy face softened. She leaned back, exhausted, sinking into the chair. Only when alone could she drop the mask. For a moment, she showed weakness and slipped off her heels. She curled up on the chair, hugged her legs, and buried her face. Then she noticed the pale scratch Ethan had left on her stocking. Her face tightened. The weakness vanished. The flawless goddess returned. She stretched out her leg to lift her skirt and remove the stocking. But the tight pencil skirt stopped her, and her cheeks flushed. Chloe stood barefoot to the side. She looked at the windows overlooking the city. She pressed the remote. The curtains slowly closed. Blushing, she took off the pencil skirt, draped it over the chair, then removed the stockings. She tossed them into the trash with a cold face. She had never suffered such humiliation. In the elevator lobby, this is far enough. If my coworkers see you, that won't be good. He entered, pressed the floor, and nodded to Natalie outside. The doors closed. As the elevator dropped, Ethan slowly relaxed. His heart pounded, his legs weakened, and his back was soaked. The courage, reason, and wit holding him up seemed to drain away once the act came off. But he knew he couldn't fully relax. The camera in the upper rear corner was still recording. From the 58th floor to the 15th, from Rivergate to Dreamstart, Ethan seemed to change from intel broker back to clerk. The shine faded, leaving ordinary life. In the hall, he felt steadier. After turning the corner, he rushed to check his balance text. He grinned, counted the digits, and took breaths to calm down. At the office door, he adjusted himself and yawned. Only after looking lazy did he walk in. I thought you fell in the toilet. I almost called a rescue. My stomach felt off. He sat and looked at the screen. His mind went blank, then filled with wild, satisfying joy. The sharp contrast between identities hooked him. Next came Arthur Caldwell, the core of the 4th file. He had no vast wealth or powerful family, but his status was extremely special. He helped shape the country's entertainment rules and culture. The first generation of top stars had all been supported by him. Arthur Caldwell was a very stubborn old man. He refused to use favors for profit, even for his children. Only one person could make him break his rules. The one person he felt guilty toward for life. A thorn in his heart that would follow him to the grave. In the 58th floor office, Chloe pressed the call button. Natalie, Ms. Whitmore, calm everyone down. Have them focus on their work. Tell them Rivergate won't lose. Yes. Also, prepare a car now. I'm going out. Keep it quiet. I'll handle it now. Natalie felt the power in Chloe's voice, face, and posture. Her anxiety turned to energy. Even her reply gained strength. Her heels clicked in a crisp rhythm. 5 minutes later, Chloe left the tower silently in a black sedan. What even is all this? Damn. I didn't get it, but it felt powerful. I sat at my desk, restless, because I knew forces outside this office were battling from afar. And now I could do nothing. Change had arrived. A real boss would keep doing his work calmly. I should do the same. Use every second to read, study intel, and write scripts. But when it mattered, I froze. I couldn't focus at all. Just then, my phone vibrated. Marcus Vale sent encrypted files. I looked around the office. No coworker was watching. I exhaled and opened them carefully. Marcus had gathered reports on platform outrage points and the hands pushing them. Mr. Vale, your ability to gather intel is excellent as always. That's exactly what we value most in you. I made no request. I only typed one line. I hit send and grinned at the sent mark. Almost at once, Derek's encrypted message reached my phone too. It contained Derek's freight schedule map. It was just as detailed. Ship IDs, loads, routes, tracks. I wasn't sure what it all meant, so I typed something vague. What Silas Mercer couldn't do, you can. Marcus Vale sat in his office. Seeing my reply, his eyes sharpened and his breathing quickened. What does Mr. Hayes mean? Then he stood, gripping his phone, and paced before the huge windows. Does the organization behind Mr. Hayes want to recruit me? Maybe all of this is their test. At Harborview Shipping in the East District, Derek stared at the reply. His gaze deepened as he pondered what Silas Mercer couldn't do. As if remembering something, his lowered eyes suddenly widened. He clutched his throat, gasping in short breaths. After revenge, he felt empty, unsure what life meant, or what he should do now. Now, maybe he had an answer. This damn life. Why could they treat Fatty, Tank, and Ivy like pawns? I want that seat too, just to see if they all see us as less than human. Elsewhere, a black sedan stopped at an old apartment complex. Chloe stepped over dry leaves, cracking them underfoot. Behind her, Third Secretary Natalie Stone followed with gifts. They reached a door and knocked. And you are? I'm here to visit Mr. Caldwell. Please tell him Chloe Whitmore, William Whitmore's granddaughter, is here. One moment, please. Soon, the middle-aged woman led them to the living room. Then she left to pour water for the guests. A few minutes later, the study door opened. A thin old man with a cane walked out. He looked at Chloe from afar, his eyes sharp with wisdom. Felt like he could see right through her. Even Chloe grew solemn under that gaze. Mr. Caldwell. William Whitmore and I barely knew each other when we were young. In old age, we lost contact entirely. You came to me because you heard about a few minor things I did long ago. Then you should know I value my reputation most. If you came to ask a favor, you can leave now. Chloe said nothing. She took out her phone and dialed a number. Then she turned the phone around and handed it to him. Mr. Caldwell, please take this call. Even for William Whitmore, I wouldn't agree. It's not my grandfather. Arthur Caldwell heard that and reached out his dry hand for the phone. Meanwhile, in a side restroom, I sat on the toilet tank. I didn't try too hard to hide my nerves. Hello? Is this Grandpa Caldwell? Who is this? My name is Jason Caldwell. You probably don't know me, but my grandfather was Henry Caldwell. Henry? I've looked for Henry for years and never found him. That old bastard was hiding from me on purpose. The old man's voice rose. I slowly got into character. My mind stayed calm, while my body heated up. The file on this man kept replaying in my head. Why didn't I visit him myself? Why send Chloe instead? And why call him by phone? Because the file said this about Arthur Caldwell. Born in 1940, once held high office, guards his name, loves books, reads hearts, and is almost wickedly smart. I didn't fully grasp that weight, but I knew one thing. I couldn't hold up in front of someone like him. Any act would look like bad clown work to him. So my nervous breathing went through the phone, and Arthur heard it. Holding back my excitement, I said, Grandpa Caldwell, please stop looking for us. My grandpa said you don't owe our family anything. Everything you've achieved came from your own talent and grit. Arthur's lips trembled. Hearing that, the last trace of doubt in his heart vanished. I owed Henry. The year college exams resumed, Arthur failed. But Henry Caldwell, an older man from his village, passed. Later, Henry's father fell gravely ill and needed money. Henry came to Arthur, and Arthur went to Capital City under Henry's name. From there, his rise was meteoric. Arthur felt he had stolen Henry's life. He once said if Henry ever asked, he'd risk his life to help. Grandpa Caldwell, I'm useless. I'm getting married soon. But I can't afford a home or even the bride price. I remembered something Grandpa once mentioned. So I found Chloe Whitmore, CEO of Rivergate. On the toilet tank, I fully slipped into Jason Caldwell's role. I sped up and made my request. Ms. Whitmore promised me that if I made this connection, she'd pay me. After hearing this, Arthur pictured an ordinary young man. Unlike Henry, he had a bit of nerve and desperation. I understand. How is Henry's health? Grandpa passed 2 years ago. They had lived 2 completely different lives. One soared upward and shaped an entire field. The other farmed and worked odd jobs all his life. Then died in obscurity. And Henry Caldwell had kept that secret buried all along. He never told a soul. After a few more words, the call ended. The old debt between the Caldwell families was settled. Arthur handed the phone back to Chloe. Tell me, what do you need? I need 3 entertainment icons to endorse our big sale. Who? Ryan Sterling, Aurora Blake, and Julian Frost. I'll contact them, but understand this ends here. Rest assured, Mr. Caldwell. We'll leave. Arthur looked at the middle-aged woman beside him. He said it coldly. Chloe didn't linger and left with Natalie. I'm bargaining with tigers, but you forced me. Now it's time for the sky to change. Outside, the sky was darkening. Chloe looked up. Today's farce had swallowed Rivergate like a storm. She still had too much work to do, and Mr. Caldwell was no saint either. I had reread the file again and again, yet still couldn't pin down his thorn. Was his guilt really fear that Henry would stain his reputation? Or was it true remorse? It didn't matter. Jason Caldwell, I'll make it up to you someday. Even if you never know. In the cramped restroom, I exhaled. I tilted my head back against the wall. Media, logistics, endorsers. All three pieces were in place. Could we pull off a wild comeback? After getting home, I sat at my desk for a long time before snapping out of it. I checked my bank balance again. When that huge number appeared, the urge to run rose in me again. I mocked myself and tossed the phone aside. I took off my shirt and did push-ups until my arms shook. Then I opened my phone and watched crime movies. This time, I chose a foreign film close to a documentary. Raw and brutal. Time ticked by. At midnight, I hit pause. After a moment, I set the phone aside and walked to the bookcase. Soon, a new file was in my hand. 5 centimeters above the tie clasp, it wasn't white like the first 4. It had a nail-sized yellow mark. A yellow-level classified file. Chloe, Derek, Marcus Vale, and even retired Arthur Caldwell were only white-level files. People at that level were roughly worth billions, even with special status. I sat back at the desk and opened the folder. I placed the thick stack of intel before me. Meanwhile, in a dim, lavish private club by the waterfront, a group of rich heirs drank together. A baby-faced young man toyed with the starlet in his arms, while toasting Adrian Blackwood at the head seat. Adrian, your fiancé is seriously sharp. When Rivergate was raising funds, several of my investment advisors pushed hard for me to put money in. If I hadn't known you had a plan, I really would have invested. Adrian looked refined and pushed up his gold-rimmed glasses. He lifted his glass to everyone. Chloe did exceed my expectations. But luckily, this ends here. Hearing Adrian confirm Rivergate was about to fall, Nolan Drake, seated nearby in black-rimmed glasses, lit up. He instantly smelled opportunity. Adrian, why let outsiders profit when we can? I happen to own a small talent agency. Mostly keeps a few starlets around for fun. Once Rivergate falls, I'll pivot it into influencer sales. If you're interested, we can all buy in. Most of them weren't core heirs and were usually short on cash. Hearing a chance to make money, they all stirred. Their eager eyes turned to Adrian. I'll be the first to invest in Nolan's company. Name the amount. Everyone erupted in cheers. Glasses clinked, and they drank them down. After several rounds, Adrian seemed a little drunk. He staggered away from the crowd into the garden. But once he stood alone by the railing, watching the dreamlike city skyline, his eyes instantly turned clear and vicious. Rivergate, that fat prize will be mine. Morning sun shone through the subway exit as I followed the crowd with my briefcase. I couldn't help yawning. Last night's new file was way too addictive. In the plaza before the tower, the giant screen was flashing. Rivergate's sale countdown, heavy with the feel of an incoming storm. Watch the tower rise, watch the feast begin, watch it all collapse. I laughed and patted my coworker's shoulder. Did you just reach enlightenment? Ethan, I have to say this. Jenna is a good girl. She's been so forward. You can't keep stringing her along. You need to take the last step. Brock, I get it. Then I sat at my desk and browsed the news. Suddenly, I saw a bold red notice on Rivergate's site. I paused. Another press conference? An hour later, at 9 sharp, I fell into thought. As an intel broker, staying detached after making connections was professional. But the hidden currents still hooked my curiosity. Sure enough, starting at 9, Rivergate's press events seemed cursed. 9 failed. Noon failed. 3 p.m. failed again. All day, for events were cancelled. The whole internet mocked them, but I knew. At least 2 crazed forces were fighting beneath the surface. Near closing time, the office was dim. Only the cold glow of the monitor lit my face. I stared at the final notice, red background and black text. Ethan was filled with emotion. Tomorrow at 7 p.m., the final press conference. They would clear the rumors and reveal new endorsers. Chloe and Marcus Vale were both complete lunatics. Late-night Harbor City still roared. 3 low-key vans left the airport. They stopped before a top Riverview penthouse. Inside sat people who could shake the entire entertainment world. And they all seemed to be waiting for an order. In the living room, Marcus Vale stood to greet the refined man walking in. Then the view turned to the other 2 seated on the sofa. Marcus was surprised and respectful. Mr. Sterling, I didn't expect you to come in person. I'm Marcus Vale. I do a little work in media. Ryan Sterling shook his hand warmly. Mr. Vale, good to meet you. Marcus turned to Aurora Blake and Julian Frost. If word gets out that you 2 are appearing together, it'll cause a massive stir. Just then, the doorbell rang urgently again. Marcus looked toward the door. A meaningful smile appeared on his face. That should be Ms. Whitmore. On the 21st, the night of Rivergate's big sale, Ethan, Brock, and Jenna didn't leave after work. They pushed their desks together. Each had a self-heating hot pot. They stared nervously at the livestream. Because of the scandal, Rivergate had huge attention. Bad publicity is still publicity. Rivergate had dominated trending lists for days. Rivergate Select wants to anchor traffic to the brand, not any single streamer. Smart move. After 5 crashes, it's finally working. Pass me the Coke. Jenna handed the Coke to Ethan. I took it, drank hard, then stared at my phone. Countless troll posts began flipping across every platform. That was the result of my turning their force against them. The livestream audience instantly broke 10 million. The first segment was the 3 endorsers. On screen, 2 staff members in black suits slowly opened the doors. Everyone held their breath. Jenna's eyes flew wide. Brock froze, forgetting to chew his hot pot. The 3 legends, Aurora Blake, Ryan Sterling, and Julian Frost walked in side by side. Holy crap, they were saving a nuke. They actually got all 3. I should have asked Chloe for 3 autographs. Aurora Blake was breathtakingly beautiful. Ryan Sterling and Julian Frost were icons of an era. With those 3 on screen, comments went insane. The servers even lagged for a while. Meanwhile, at a private waterfront club, Adrian, who had thought victory was certain, turned ice-cold at once. Chairman Blackwood, another force has appeared on the platforms. Marcus Vale is pushing it. He chose Ms. Whitmore. Harborview Shipping has stepped in too. That's a branch of Canal Gate. A branch of Canal Gate. Chloe Whitmore, you played me. Call Marcus Vale. I want an explanation. Dig. I want to know the power behind Chloe. We lost this round. By then, the livestream had over 50 million viewers. Rivergate finally released the evidence chain. The so-called sudden death streamer had received 200,000 right after signing. Then they turned around and smeared Rivergate. Once the truth came out, netizen rage turned into a buying frenzy. At midnight, sales miraculously broke 3 billion. Inside Dreamstart Creative, Brock pointed at the sales numbers and shouted. Jenna jumped up in excitement. Outside the window, Rivergate's victory fireworks bloomed across the night sky. This is insane. Over 3 billion in 4 hours. This really is a unicorn company. Ethan, look. Rivergate's launching fireworks. I leaned back in my chair. Fireworks reflected in my eyes. A victor smile spread across my face. It was late when we got off. I walked Jenna home and said goodbye. Seeing her reluctant face warmed my heart. I was about to leave, when she suddenly called from behind. Text me when you get home. Yeah, I will. I waved goodbye, already calculating tonight's situation. Rivergate's reputation comeback was far more complex than it looked. Tonight was only the start. The currents would only grow fiercer. I was about to hail a ride home, when Chloe called. Ms. Whitmore, that was a beautiful fight tonight. I should congratulate you. Never forget who made it possible. Mr. Hayes, you're tonight's uncrowned king. I'd like you to witness a legend rise. Of course, I prepared a gift for you. I paused for a moment. My intel was basically used up now. If danger came, I could only use Derek's forces. But in the end, I accepted. I calmly entered the elevator. I watched it stop at the 58th floor. But I didn't know. The outside of the tower was already full of danger. Several watchers were tracking my every move. The news reached Adrian Blackwood at once. My fiancé is meeting some man late at night. Either way, I should go see. Either way, I should go see. Right? Take our people. Surround Rivergate Tower. Entering Rivergate's elevator, I looked calm. Inside, I was screaming at the taste of power. A nobody had pushed a business feast. The thrill was insane. The doors opened. Natalie Stone bowed deeply. Mr. Hayes. Then I strode into the hall, driver and secretary behind me. I knew this trip could be dangerous. But my hunger for the top kept me moving. In the 58th floor office, the big screen showed the sales first day frenzy. I sat in the boss chair. Chloe handed me a document. Mr. Hayes, Rivergate's equity transfer agreement. Please sign. So this is your gift, Ms. Whitmore? It's for you, or rather, for your people. Chloe knew my backing and wanted our interests tied. But just as I spoke, frantic knocking cut through the tense, charged air. Natalie rushed in, panicked. Ms. Whitmore, Mr. Blackwood has sealed the tower. He's bringing men to your office now. At Adrian's name, deep disgust crossed Chloe's face. And Ethan, steady as a rock to others, was soaked in cold sweat. I couldn't fight Adrian now, but I knew. My only way to live was to keep playing the boss. I had to take full control. The elevator doors slowly opened on the first floor. Adrian smiled brightly and walked toward reception. The receptionist spoke. Sir, we're closed tonight. If you have... Adrian's smile vanished. He suddenly pulled out a silver pistol and pressed it to her forehead. I'm here for Chloe. Scream and I'll send you to hell. Mr. Blackwood, please go back for now. Adrian stared at Victor Warren and slapped him hard. Victor tried to stop him, but Adrian's guard struck him flying. He slammed hard into the wall. Adrian had broken the wager this far. The answer was obvious. Ms. Whitmore, stop lying to yourself. You disappointed me today, but I'll still give you one chance. Show me your resolve. Chloe stayed silent, then took a Colt from the drawer. The instant she stood, the office door was smashed open. Adrian stepped over splintered wood, eyes locked on me like a beast. At that crash, my heart nearly stopped. I'm a boss. I'm a boss. I tried to hypnotize myself. Then I lifted the teacup. My hand wanted to shake. I clenched my teeth to hold it still. I nudged the lid and brought the tea to my lips. Under Adrian's stare, I sipped it calmly. What else can I do? Derek? Should I call Derek? Come save my ass. Forget it. Whoever broke that door was clearly trained. Damn it. How did I never know? There were so many martial arts masters. Where were they during all those online debunks? As I kept losing my supposed advantages, I simply hardened my heart and let a smile reach my eyes. I met Adrian's beastly eyes reflected in the glass. Feeling that amused gaze, the monster under Adrian's refined skin nearly broke loose. He breathed hard and stepped forward. Just then, a gunshot cracked. The bullet grazed Adrian's nose and buried into the glass beside him. At the end of the hall, Victor Warren spat. Then he put away his gun and walked toward Adrian. By then, Adrian was fully shielded. His guards raised their guns at Victor. As Victor moved, Chloe's guards at the door drew their weapons. They aimed at Adrian. Both security teams faced off. Miss, I'm fine. But if they make one more move, you have permission to shoot. Yes. Adrian, what do you want? What do I want? A bright smile spread across his face. After glancing at Chloe, he took the satellite phone from his secretary. Then he dialed a number. The ringing echoed through the hall. Uncle Whitmore, sorry to disturb your rest. Here's the thing. Today is Chloe's big day with Rivergate. I came from Southport to witness her glory with her. But, well, I was nearly killed by one of Chloe's men. I'm wondering if our engagement should end. The moment he finished, Chloe's father roared on the phone. You bastard. After that shout, the satellite phone was handed to Chloe. A storm of curses hit her. Then the phone was passed to Victor Warren. After the call ended, Victor pressed his lips tight. His face was blank. He made no move. But the deputy captain beside him stepped past. He raised a hand signal and said coldly, weapons down. Humiliation. Rage. Still, the guards lowered their guns one by one. When they looked up, Adrian's guards still had guns trained on them, ready to fire. This team served the capital city Whitmores first, and Chloe second. Chloe watched it all without expression. If she were ordinary, she could feel wronged and angry. She could sob, scream, and break down. But she couldn't. She was Chloe Whitmore, the Whitmore tigress. In the office, I held my breath. I listened nervously to every word from Chloe's father. When he ordered the guards to disarm, my heart sank. Adrian laughed smugly. He lifted his foot to pass Chloe and walk toward the strange man. But as soon as he moved, Chloe stepped in front of him. Adrian's face turned cold as he stared at Chloe. This time, Chloe didn't block him. He chuckled and walked past her. But as they brushed shoulders, Chloe snapped out the gun she had just put away. She aimed it at the back of Adrian's head. But before she could pull the trigger, the man in black behind Adrian shot out with a lock. He knocked the pistol from Chloe's hand. Adrian glanced at the gun, then raised his hand and slapped. The hard slap landed on his secretary's face. Half her young face swelled red in seconds. Expressionless, Adrian kept walking toward me. I stayed silent. The hair on my arms stood up. My heart hung in my throat. Then I smiled, picked up the cup, and raised it to my lips. My posture stayed calm and steady. But Chloe had somehow stepped back several paces. And from somewhere, she produced a palm-sized lady's pistol. Expressionless, she pressed the muzzle to her own forehead. Adrian Blackwood. Veins bulged on Adrian's forehead. He removed his glasses, then put them back on and turned to Chloe. At that moment, Chloe looked tragic and stunning. Her fate was like a thorn bird, like a flower on the far shore. Under the same sky at the Whitmore estate in Capital City, Chloe's mother saw her father open the door and head to the study. After a while, she carefully got up, put on a coat, and walked across the estate. When Mrs. Whitmore entered, the on-call doctor hurried over. Mrs. Whitmore stood outside, looking through the glass at the ventilator, and all the monitors attached to old Mr. Whitmore. The old man was the Whitmore sky. One more day alive meant one more day of deterrence. Dr. Wallace, I want to see him. Madam, please wait. Please wait. Mrs. Whitmore put on a gown and carefully disinfected her hands. She softened her breathing and walked to the bed. Under the warm light, she looked at the old man, kept alive almost entirely by modern medicine. Her eyes reddened. Several times she reached out, but whenever her fingers touched the blanket, she pulled back. She couldn't bear to wake him and make him worry now, but she also ached for Chloe in Harbor City. Just then, a cough broke the ICU silence. The old man's eyelids trembled, then opened. When his voice sounded, Mrs. Whitmore's tears fell uncontrollably. Don't cry, don't cry, I'm here. The sky won't fall. He couldn't move, but his thin hands struggled to tap hers. Shit, this went too far. Through the glass reflection, I saw Chloe's gun knocked away, then watched her press another gun to her own forehead. My heart nearly stopped from fear. Better shattered jade than whole clay. Chloe could do it. Thinking of Chloe's file, I knew that for sure. And if Chloe really died in this office, the already chaotic situation would go completely berserk. I'm just a nobody. Don't drag me into this vortex. But now I could do nothing. The only thing left was to keep my mysterious boss act. Chloe, why make this so tense? I'm not some monster. I only heard. Someone powerful had appeared behind you. I just came to pay a visit. Put the gun down first. Seeing Adrian soften, I let out a small breath. I never thought one sentence from me could push Chloe this far. Hey sir over there, talk to Chloe. Have her lower the gun and we'll drink some tea. We'll chat. Oh, I even brought some dragon well. From the old Lion Peak fields. Inside my dress shoes, my toes dug into the soles. Adrian was smart. He quickly noticed. The only person who could calm the room. At that, every eye turned to me. If Chloe died in this room, everyone here would be finished. And Chloe, gun pressed to her pale forehead, looked at me too. In that moment I pushed all my pressure and fear into the balls of my feet, toes clenched tight. They dug into the soles and scraped inch by inch. But my face still held a faint smile. Under everyone's stare I leaned forward. I lifted the cup again and took a calm sip. Then, holding the cup, I looked at Adrian's reflection in the glass. Mr. Blackwood, Ms. Whitmore isn't someone you can just visit like this. I set the cup down and slammed my palm on the mahogany armrest. A wager is a wager. If you don't honor your word, you don't deserve to sit before me. Those words struck everyone's heart like thunder. What was Adrian Blackwood's status? The eldest heir of the Southern Coast Blackwoods, with over $1 trillion in assets. They ruled the Southern Coast business world. The capital he represented could stand against even old capital city families. Without losing ground, what kind of person would dare disrespect Adrian like this? Adrian's smile froze, replaced by cold darkness. Caleb. As the name left his mouth, the middle-aged man in black set his stance. Like a tiger or leopard, he locked onto Ethan. My scalp went numb. Goosebumps rose everywhere. Death. I smelled death. Just then, the office phone rang sharply. Natalie widened her eyes. This madam. Natalie looked at Chloe, almost crying. Her mother was in poor health. Hello, madam. It's me. The voice on the phone was hoarse and old, but its authority filled the room. Hearing that voice, Chloe's tragic, stunning face first showed disbelief. Then her eyes reddened, but she quickly hid it. Seeing Adrian raise a hand, the man in black withdrew his killing focus. I secretly exhaled. We were saved. Grandpa. Chloe took the phone and pressed her lips together. She felt she had shamed her grandfather. It's me, Chloe. I heard everything. Rivergate did well. Worthy of my Whitmore tigress. Chloe, put me on speaker. I have a few words. You're on, Grandpa. Please speak. Call Captain Mark Dawson over. Sir, Mark Dawson is here. Mark Dawson was Victor Warren's alias, but he'd almost forgotten his real name. Hearing the call, his broad frame moved through the crowd. He stood straight before Chloe. I sent you to Chloe to keep her safe. Did you do that? Victor's fierce eyes reddened. He couldn't steel himself. You let your men stand down and outsiders aim guns at her. You put her fate in others' hands. Is that what I taught you? Old Mr. Whitmore didn't shout. His tone was steady, but those few words were torture to Victor's soul. He lowered his head, his powerful body trembling. I'm very disappointed in you. Get out. Yes, sir. Please take care. Then Victor strode forward and stood behind Chloe like a spear. This was a true giant's aura. Total control of mood and tempo. As for old Mr. Whitmore, I'd only glimpsed him through Chloe's file. But that was enough to know what kind of man he was. The true top of the pyramid. Damn it. That old man's voice and breathing didn't sound like he was dying. Was the intel wrong? Or was it something else? Adrian's refined face was full of respect. But inside, he cursed with the ugliest words. Is Adrian Blackwood there? Grandpa, Adrian is here. I'm not dead yet. Why the rush? Grandpa, it's a misunderstanding. I only came to celebrate Chloe's win. Enough. Adrian shut his mouth at once. He felt the old man's pressure. His eyes flickered as he kept thinking. After that line, the phone went silent. Even so, no one dared make another move. After a long while, old Mr. Whitmore's undeniable voice sounded again. Hand over the Blackwoods Northern Territory business. Or your marriage to Chloe is over. As he finished, Adrian's eyes flew wide. Real panic crossed his handsome, refined face. Old Mr. Whitmore's strike hit Adrian and the Blackwoods where it hurt. Giving up the Northern Territory business meant losing an arm. But ending the Blackwood-Whitmore marriage was even more unacceptable for the family's plans. Old Mr. Whitmore had calculated it all. He wanted the Blackwoods to cut off an arm. Fine sweat formed on Adrian's forehead. He began breathing hard. Grandpa, I was wrong. I was wrong. Enough. I'm tired. Get out. If there's more, have your father speak. The aged voice rang out. Adrian opened his mouth. With a dark look, he bowed. Then rest well, Grandpa. With that, he turned and led his men out. The beast in human skin seemed unable to hold back. He rolled his neck, fists clenched. Adrian wondered if the Whitmores had set this trap. Maybe they leaked the old man's critical illness on purpose, just to take the Blackwoods' Northern Territory business. Damn, that's a real boss. Maybe one day I can be like that too. Chloe, is the gentleman who helped you there? He is. Chloe looked at Ethan, seated at the desk. His mysterious identity stunned her even more. Put him on. The phone was handed to me. I didn't want it. But Chloe's gaze left me no time to hesitate. I could only smile calmly and take the phone.